There's a new Joe in Cincinnati. Joe Flacco is a Bengal. Omarion Hampton is getting sent to the IR. Yikes. On the bright side, Emeka Egbuka is the wide receiver 3 on the season. Who could have seen a rookie wide receiver paying off? Who could have predicted that? Another rookie broke out in week 5. We had Bill Krosky Merritt with 26 points versus the Chargers. All of this and more tonight in the Fantasy Football Garage. I'm Chris the Candy Man. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit that like on your way in. Make sure you're subbed to the channel. Come get into the chat. Say what up. Let me know how your week 5 matchups turned out. And looking ahead to the waiver wire for tonight, who are we picking up? How much fab are we spending? And what are we going to do going into week 6 of the NFL season? Without further ado, let's hit the intro. But overall, it's like the guy can ball. Like, actions speak louder than words. What's going on? Hope you guys crushed in week 5. Had some good luck in your matchups and your flex sit start decisions. Man, I still can't get over the Texans and CJ Stroud scoring 4 touchdowns and destroying the Ravens. Nothing for Woody Marks. Not the right game script. He had the same amount of touches as Dameon Pierce. Davis Mills came in garbage time. So very underwhelming. But on the bright side, we got a Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt smash in week 5, putting up 26 fantasy points and looking pretty good for the rest of season outlook there with Jaden Daniels back in the lineup. We had quite a few high running back scores in week 5. First of all, we had a new record in total rushing yards this season in a game and total yards from a running back in a game. Rico Dowdle with 206 on the ground and 234 total yards. He averaged 1.2 fantasy points per touch. So what a breakout week for Dowdle as well. Jonathan Taylor continues to roll. He has 3 touchdowns for the second time this season. He gets it done. Only 66 rushing yards, but the touchdowns, they put him over 30 points and a half PPR for the week. Quite a game. Another game from Kyron Williams. We saw that on Thursday night against the Niners. He caught those 2 passing touchdowns on 10 targets, 8 receptions for 66 yards, tacked on an additional 14 rushing attempts, 65 rushing yards. So he gets it done with 27 points in week 5. Javonte Williams continues to roll along. He had 8.4 rushing yards per attempt, 16 attempts, 135 rushing yards. He had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown, good for 26 and a half fantasy points. I mean, what a season. What a comeback for Javonte Williams. He looks like one of the best picks at cost in fantasy for the entire season, especially among running backs. Like I said, Bill had his breakout game. He did it on 14 rushing attempts, 111 yards, good for 7.9 rushing yards per attempt. Caught a couple passes for 39 yards, and he had those 2 scores. Could have had another one. So more to come for him. Christian McCaffrey got it done on Thursday night. We've already covered that one. And other than that, one of the other big performances came from Rachaad White in relief of Bucky Irving. He goes off for a huge 21-point week. He gets it done, both on the ground and through the air, but it's the 2 rushing touchdowns that counted that he was able to get. So he puts up a big week. And I think that's kind of the major scores. Kareem Hunt had a nice week there last night on Monday Night Football against the Jags. It was really, those 2 touchdowns that Kareem Hunt had got him up to 18 fantasy points. So a nice little goal line roll that he's carved out. I think we have to keep that in mind going forward. Montgomery had a nice game. He threw for a touchdown. He had a rushing touchdown. So the narrative pays out. Almost 18 fantasy points for David Montgomery. Continues to keep it rolling. And Saquon Barkley, he saw, I think, his lowest touch total in recent memory in the last 2 years. Only 9 touches, 6 rushing attempts, 3 receptions, but gets it for 58 receiving yards and a touchdown. So he registers for about 16.3 fantasy points, which doesn't feel too bad. And it's the most fantasy points per touch he's had all season at 1.8, but would have liked to seen him more involved. And he's right there. He's averaging about 16 fantasy points per game this year. So he's right in line with that. Michael Carter has a nice game with a rushing touchdown that really puts him over, gets him to about 16 fantasy points. Jahmyr Gibbs gets it done through the air with a receiving touchdown, gets him to about 16 fantasy points. Breece Hall still hasn't scored a touchdown, but he's 113 rushing yards, good for 8.1 rushing yards per attempt in week 5 and 42 through the air. So what a day from him. He didn't score, but he had 155 total yards. Still waiting on that touchdown. Those are some of the high notes from the running backs in week 5. And let me say what up to y'all. See what's going on tonight. We got LK in here. What's up, yo? How we doing? Captain Clutch Pants. What's up, brother? You got smashed in one of your leagues, lost 127 to 183 and half point, 12-man. Dang. Hey, 4-1's not bad, though. But, yeah, anytime someone puts up 183 and half point, get out of the way. The Dynasty League that I'm in, that I co-manage with BINDLES, we put up the second highest score of the week. It's PPR, and we put up 173 and a half points. We were the second highest scoring team, and you guessed it, we lost to the highest scoring team, PPR Tyler, on the week. He had 195 points. We had Josh Allen. He had Baker Mayfield. We had Ashton Jinty. He had Achane. We had Dowdle. He had Jamar Chase and Waddle and Ferguson and Rashad White, Jared Goff, also super flex. We had Tua. We had Michael Carter, Diggs, Goddard, just not enough to get it done. Somehow we lose by 20 points after putting up 174. So luck of the draw, but we really needed that win. Not a great start there. How we doing tonight, everyone? Happy Tuesday. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for being here. Nino says, crazy using my number 1 priority on Mason Taylor this week. I don't think it's crazy. I think it's fine. I kind of walked back what I was talking about last week. Last week, I wasn't super convinced just because of the low passing volume in that Jets offense. But I think Mason Taylor, I liked him during the summer. I liked him as a prospect. He has the most receiving yards all time by a tight end at LSU, if I'm not mistaken. So good prospect, good pass catcher. We're waiting to see how long it took him to get going in this offense. And he's getting going. He's like the number 2 option in the passing game right now behind Garrett Wilson, who's having a great year. Breece Hall gets pretty involved. So I think he can be fine. I think with the low volume passing attack the Jets have, he might be at risk for some low floor weeks, but at the same time, their game script is going to be trying to play catch up. So maybe that could be good for him too. There's going to be a few tight end options on the waiver wires this week that I think are worth going after. Mason Taylor is definitely one of them. He's probably one of the top 3 waiver targets at tight end this week. We got Galaxy Pickers here. How we doing, brother? Jason, and yeah, getting the week started. It's Tuesday. That was a fun game last night. Trevor Lawrence coming in clutch in the last minute to win it with 2 rushing touchdowns. Who would have guessed that? Captain Clutch says he's trying to trade up for a better running back. He wants to package Quentin Johnston, or maybe it's Quinshon Judkins, and K9 for a better running back. Any ideas? Already have Judkins. So you've got Judkins. So you're talking about Quentin Johnston. I don't know. I mean, unless you just have such a deep wide receiver room, I probably would not try to trade away Quentin Johnston. I can see trying to upgrade on Kenneth Walker. I think Kenneth Walker's fine, but whoops. Kenneth Walker's fine. He's a little underwhelming. Let me fix this real quick. There we go. What I was trying to get to on the data. So Ken Walker, he's averaging about 12 fantasy points a game. His highest week, he had 18 points. He's averaging 0.8 fantasy points per touch and half-point PPR. Pretty good. 75 touches through 5 weeks, 3 touchdowns, 60 total fantasy points. He's getting about 15 touches a game. So when he's healthy, he's still good. He has scored, 40% of the time he's scoring as a RB1, scoring 17 or more points. But his floor is a little bit lower there. So Ken Walker still getting it done. I think the Seahawks are looking pretty good. I'd want to roll with that too. So it depends on what the rest of your team is. If you really need a better running back, there's only so many names that are going to be better than Ken Walker, and giving up Quentin Johnston, who is crushing this year. I mean, on the season, he is the wide receiver. What is that? 8 on the season. So that's kind of, and maybe others catch up. Maybe Romadunze catches up. Cortland Sutton's doing fine. Justin Jefferson, I could see catching up. Maybe Devontae Adams. Maybe he loses some work to Keenan Allen or Ladd, but I'd be pretty interested in keeping him. And I don't think Ken Walker's too bad, but I could see how you might want to level up if someone's willing to trade. Yeah, Quentin Johnston. And Captain says he has Puka, Diggs, Rice, and Golden currently. So when Rice comes back, I could see that. I prefer Quentin Johnston over Diggs rest of season. But Diggs has had a nice little, get up lately. With Puka, if you only have to start 3 of these guys, then yeah, with Rice back, I would probably myself, I'd probably try to trade Diggs and maybe Ken Walker to upgrade at a running back. And then it's tough. There's not that many names left worth going after with these injuries. We keep saying Hampton went down, but if you want someone better than Ken Walker, at the same time you're adding in a top 8 wide receiver like Quentin Johnston, or a top, going forward, maybe a top 24 wide receiver like Diggs, I would try to get someone really good. I don't know. Is Kyron Williams a big enough upgrade for you? You have Puka, so there's a little bit of a team synergy there, but at the same time, maybe they don't both score every week. I don't think someone's going to give you Gibbs or Bijan or James Cook. If you really wanted to upgrade and you thought it was worth it, you could go for Javonte Williams. Statistically, he is, putting up huge numbers. So if you feel good about Javonte going forward, he could be a target that you might be able to get for those 2 guys. LK, FJA. Is there any word on McLaurin? Not that I haven't heard anything on McLaurin. Let me look at but I need him because Justin Jefferson on a bye. Yeah, Justin Jefferson on that bye in week 6. Vikings and the Texans trying to trade A.J. Brown. I only have Pittman, Malik Washington. Some options are Leggett, Horton, Thornton, Tolbert, or D-Hop. Yeah, that's tough. I would probably lean Horton out of that group. I know Leggett's been hit or miss. Thornton hadn't really shown it yet. Tolbert, scary low floor apparently with Flournoy coming on, right? D-Hop, it's a mess without Lamar, but with Lamar, it's fine. Yeah, Horton to me is the interesting name there. But let me pull up what the Commanders have been saying about McLaurin. They've mostly so Dan Quinn was talking about Bill Krosky Merritt in the post game. Then Dan Quinn yesterday was saying, let me see here. Oh, the reporter asked on the level of optimism on Terry McLaurin returning this week. Head coach Dan Quinn of the Commanders says, "We're optimistic. We'll have more information as the week goes on." So that's fine. They're optimistic, but they're not sure, is kind of my takeaway. So I would be under the assumption he might not play this week, but they're optimistic. I wouldn't make a drastic move, but I would get a backup plan like a Horton. Yo, what's up, Jason? We got Caden in here. How we doing, my friend? AJ Brown goes nuclear this week and scores 25. Bookmark it. I like that. I like that. You got the Eagles going up against the Giants on Thursday Night Football. It is a Saquon Barkley revenge game. That whole narrative. I think last year he averaged like 17 yards per attempt against them or something crazy, or 10 yards per attempt, whatever he did. He put up 170 yards, if I'm not mistaken. I remember hearing that today, but I haven't seen it on the page. And I don't remember specifically, but that's what I was hearing today. So I would definitely bookmark a big Saquon week, especially after they underutilized him previously in week 5 with what happened against Denver in that Denver fourth quarter comeback. So, but AJ Brown could definitely go off. We'll just see how the game script goes. Been interesting for them. Definitely. Yo, what's up, Smitty? Galaxy, how we doing, brother? Ended up trading Ladd, Hawkinson, and Carter for London, Hunter Henry, and Kendre Miller. I like that. I mean, get rid of Hawkinson. He's not doing enough. Hunter Henry's great. He's fine. London over Ladd makes sense to me. Move Carter, get Kendre. The big upgrade there is London for the meanwhile, until Ladd proves it. But now you have Addison, Bill, and Goddard back up in Hunter Henry. You got Lamb coming back, hopefully this week, maybe next week. London, Kendre, Mooney. Mooney's going to be back this week, we think. That's good. Nick's Adunze back from his bye. I love that. JT, of course, smash. Tootin, a fun prospect. We can't get. He hadn't got enough touches. I'm waiting for this Tootin breakout game. We got the Bill Krosky Merritt breakout game. I was waiting for that Tootin breakout against the Chiefs last night. Didn't see it. K9 worthy. That's a great squad. I like your move. I like your move there. Might drop Mooney for Penix to pair with London. Knicks' bye week. Or should I pick up T-Law? Yeah, so Knicks has that bye week in, gosh, I want to say the Broncos are bye week 9, if I'm not mistaken. Or are they? Are they though? The Broncos are in bye. No. They're week 12. They're week 12. That for a second there, I forgot. I was thinking of the Buccaneers have a week 9 bye. So you've got a while. I would just chill on picking up a backup QB for now. T-Law seems fine. He goes on a bye in week 8. Penix has no more bye, so you know that. But I would roll with Mooney for a bit. I don't know if you necessarily need Mooney because you have so much other depth at wide receiver, but Mooney could be nice until Lamb comes back for sure. And I think, starting London and Adunze and Worthy with the option to start Mooney is kind of nice if you need it. And then you have Addison too. So I guess I get what you're saying. You might just have so many bench spots at wide receiver already with guys that are probably better than Mooney. But I like Mooney a lot. He's fun to stash. If you want to plan ahead that far ahead for week 12 bye, you could get Trevor Lawrence. I would probably Trevor Lawrence over Penix right now, but I like the idea of you stacking him with London too. That's kind of fun. The goal line touches with Charbonnet kill me though. I know. It is kind of ridiculous to keep giving Charbonnet those goal line touches, but that's his role. So we need Ken Walker to have his big breakaway runs is kind of his deal, right? How we doing, Joe? What's up, FK? How we guys doing tonight? Hope your week 5 went well. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to hit that like, vote in the poll. Let's see. Caden says, what kicker should I grab off waiver wire? McLaughlin, Sly, Colts kicker, McManus, Matt Gay, Pinheiro. So in my FFPC high stakes league, we had Hartman and I have the kicker for the Colts who's now injured. So I'll tell you my waiver priority. Let me hit the refresh here. I can view it. I want to pick up, and I know you've got different options, but I'm trying to pick up either Cairo Santos, Parker Romo, Chris Boswell after Brandon McManus. So I have Brandon McManus as my favorite in my own group, and then Cairo Santos. So I'm trying to pick up kickers who have already had their bye and on good teams that can score. So and guys who might teams who also might try to kick field goals and not go for it. So I'm thinking Green Bay, Chicago. So I like McManus there of your options. Jason says, when do we see Henderson breakthrough? Yeah, I know, man. I want to see the Henderson breakthrough too. We get another week of Ramondre Stevenson. Even with the fumble, they still give him the ball. And he puts up a decent week. I mean, I know he scored. Let me scroll down. I could find Ramondre on the list, but man, Ramondre right now, another decent week for him. So the Travion breakout, we're still waiting on that. RJ Harvey got underused again. Tootin got underused. It was a Bill breakout week. Caden wants to know, in half point, start one wide receiver and one flex. Debo Sutton, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brian Thomas Jr., Breece Hall, ETN. I mean, you have a lot of good options. If you can only start 2 of those guys, you've got a lot of good options. This is a good problem to have. Give me Debo and give me, honestly, it's close between ETN and Breece Hall. You might just go Sutton, but I kind of like starting a running back in my flex, especially with a guy like a Breece Hall who can put up a bunch of points. We want to see him score a touchdown. Could be a good matchup for him this week. Yeah, I'm gonna lean ETN over Breece. He's already got 3 touchdowns. Their team's doing a little bit better. He's had some higher scoring weeks with those touchdowns. Another option is Luther Burden. I like Luther Burden a lot. I think he's tough to trust right now. We got to see more out of Luther Burden, more involvement. Thoughts on Fields, Knicks, Love, rest of season? I mean, the whispers we're starting to hear is more around a Fields getting benched, right? Which for real football reasons is because the Jets keep losing and all that. But for fantasy, he's great. Knicks, he's been fine. Love, I'm a big fan of, but we need to see more out of him too. Just more scoring, more production from that offense, more passing volume. So I would be pretty optimistic if that was my QB room for like a super flex team. If it's a single quarterback league, then you probably only need two of those guys. And I'd probably be leaning Fields and Love over Knicks. But definitely like Fields has a ton of ceiling. How are we doing, Sammy? What's up, my man? Scattaboo, I'm a huge Scattaboo fan. I think I drafted a ton of Scattaboo all season. Been a fan of his. Even with Tyrone Tracy coming back, I don't see Tracy being much of a hindrance for Scattaboo. I think the genie's out of the bottle. Good things to come. Scattaboo, in his 5 games, he's averaging 0.73 fantasy points per touch. So he's had, we want to see some more breakaway runs and some more touchdowns. He only has 2 touchdowns. 81 touches is pretty nice. He's in the same sphere as Devon Achane, who's got 85 touches. Devon Achane's just a little bit more productive per touch at 0.94 fantasy points. mostly coming from he's got 4 touchdowns. Scatterboo has 2, so that's a big part of it. And then I would also say Tracy. I have to scroll down a bit, but Tyrone Tracy, when he was active, he was only averaging 0.54 fantasy points per touch on 30 touches. So it's not like incredibly small volume that we'd have like a really bad sample size. It could get better for Tracy. I think Tracy's like a very, very low end flex that you wouldn't want to start, where I think going forward, Scatterboo is a solid RB2 with RB1 potential any given week. Yeah, Bond, McCaffrey, and Tutu Atwell. Tutu's actually interesting. The way that the Rams have been using him the last 2 weeks as a deep threat. So I'd be most interested in that group in Tutu, but I'm still wanting to go with Horton. But I could see, Tutu would be very close to Horton. With Bucky's injury, would you trade for him still? I don't know. Let me go check what they're talking about Bucky. I've got Bucky in most of my leagues. I have him in my home league. I have him in my oldest dynasty league. So I'm just sitting there holding on to Bucky, hoping that we hear good news. Yesterday, head coach Todd Bowles, was talking, and he said, we still see Rachaad White as a lead back. We just have 2 of them now with him and Bucky Irving. We count on him a lot, which is the same sentiment he's been saying consistently all offseason. And then it's day-to-day with Bucky Irving right now. We're still trying to see how he heals and kind of go from there. So this is my own input. When coaches say day-to-day, I think week to week. When they say week to week, I think month to month. So just whatever they say, just, expand that a little bit. So I think right now Bucky is day to day. I'm going to say he doesn't play this week. Maybe he's back next week. The Buccaneers have a bye in week 9. He could be out until the bye, but hopefully he'd be back before then. We just don't have that kind of news yet. So I'm going to say I don't want to trade for injured players right now, unless your team is just destroying everyone and you have extra spare parts to share and to sit on your bench. You could sit Bucky on your bench for a while. When he was healthy, he was averaging 0.69 fantasy points per game. So he's pretty volume dependent, unfortunately. He had 90 touches in those 4 games, but he had a nice 23-point game, and he was averaging about 15.5 fantasy points per game. So he was getting a ton of work. If they cut his workload a little bit and started to give more to Rachaad White, then that's also not good. Rachaad White's averaging 0.92 fantasy points per game. He had 49 touches through the first 5 games. His biggest week, he put up 21 points. He just did it right, and he's been averaging 9 points per game. So if they do start to take some of the workload off of Bucky going forward because of this injury, and they make it a more even split between Bucky and Rachaad White, that'd actually be really bad news for Bucky. So I think I would not be targeting Bucky right now, particularly. Yeah, what's up, Bo? How we doing? And we got Nihal in the house. Hope you guys are having a great Tuesday. Joe, no ball, says, should I sell high on Rashid Shaheed for Lad? I would. I've got Shaheed in my home league. I'm starting him. I'm excited that he finally had a big week, but my heart says get Lad. Thoughts on this quarterback's got you, brother. Yeah, FK knows ball. Broncos are 12. You know what it is, FK? I probably haven't been thinking a whole lot about the Broncos bye week planning because I don't have any Bo Nix in my managed leagues. I don't even have any Sutton in my managed leagues, so I'm not really planning around the Broncos a whole lot. So I've stopped thinking so much about their bye week. But yeah, bye week 12. You've got Rachaad White. If I were to get Bucky, would you give up Henderson or Monty? I would not give up Monty right now. I would give up Henderson for Bucky. And I think between Bucky and Monty, it's close. With Monty, he has a similar ceiling to Bucky Irving, and he's more efficient per touch. He scores more touchdowns. So I want players who are not injured, and I want players on good teams. Montgomery's a good player on a good team. I think the risk right now with Bucky is just around that injury and what his workload looks like coming back off of it, and if they give Rachaad White more of a split. So it sounds crazy, but the way I look at it, I think Montgomery's safer right now than Bucky. Trade for Breece Hall or Josh Jacobs. Give me Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs is going undervalued right now. Let me find him. He put up that 29.7 fantasy score. That was his like a big game. He's averaging 17 points a game. He's got 4 touchdowns. So Breece Hall's getting it done with yardage. Josh Jacobs is getting it done mostly with touchdowns, but I think that yardage comes up. I think he's had a lot of kind of 40, 60 rushing yard games. He still is used heavily in the pass game too. So I think coming out of this bye, we should see the defense for the Packers continue to kind of dominate. If their offensive line can get healthier, he'll have some more opportunities to break off big plays. I think Josh Jacobs' ceiling is just higher than Breece Hall. Sammy wants to know any waiver wire pickups. Yeah. I'm going for Haskins over Vidal personally, but I think they're both worth a speculative add for whatever you think. People have been kind of wagering the last couple of weeks on these backup running backs. I wouldn't go overboard. The guy I'm actually most interested in, if Kenny Gainwell is still available in your leagues, people probably were reluctant to pick him up. They maybe saw his game in week 4 as a fluke. He went on bye in week 5, but Kenny Gainwell put up 28.4 fantasy points in week 4. That's good for it was the 9th highest running back score of the entire season, right behind Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, what they did in week 1 and week 2 respectively. But it was the 3rd highest running back score in week 4 behind Josh Jacobs and Ashton Genty. People forget, Kenny Gainwell and looked really good. I think he could earn a larger role in this offense going forward. And I think the way the Steelers have used 2 running backs in the past with Najee and Warren is indicative that Warren doesn't have to be the workhorse for them. They can also work in Kenny Gainwell. Gainwell has been averaging 0.97 fantasy points per touch on his 48 touches. He's got 3 touchdowns. On the flip side, Jalen Warren has been averaging 0.72 fantasy points per touch on 54 touches, 1 touchdown. And in his career, Jalen Warren is 6, 7 touchdowns now. So he's not really a big touchdown guy, just hasn't been. He is using the passing game, but on a similar amount of total touches, Gainwell's been better. So my biggest waiver pickup is if for some reason Kenny Gainwell is still available. I think he's a really nice stash. The Steelers don't look terrible. They look better than I expected, and Rodgers can still get it done. Thoughts on Josh Downs over Alec Ilmenor? Josh in a good offense. Alec is not. Yes. And we just saw A.D. Mitchell get doghoused. So Josh Downs going forward, if he's available, he's a good pickup. Alec Pierce is still out with the concussion. He might come back this week, but we just don't know. Yeah, I would go with McManus, Caden. I'd go with McManus. I like the Packers. If you're more of a Bears guy, you can go Santos. I think they're both good ads. And they don't have any more bye weeks going on. Yo, what's up, Nihal? How we doing, brother? Just traded Garrett, Wilson, and Worthy for Rice and A.J. Brown. Thoughts? I think that's a fair trade. I can see both sides of it. Garrett Wilson's been doing very well. Worthy has come back nicely, we expect. But Rice is, I still think, going to be a top 3 or 5 or at worst 10 wide receiver in the league going forward when he comes back in week 7. He still has a bye week in week 10. Keep that in mind. But, through the first 5 weeks, Garrett Wilson's been pretty nice. He's been the wide receiver 5. A.J. Brown is a stud. He can have big weeks, but he's had some pretty small weeks too, and frustrations, all that good stuff we've been hearing about. kind of nonsense. On the season, AJ Brown is like wide receiver 43. So I think, going forward, can Brown turn it around, be more involved? Sure. I think the price there, because it's like the best player in the trade, I think when he's back is Rice, but the best player right now is Garrett Wilson. Worthy's a nice piece. AJ Brown's a nice piece. I think it's fine. If you really love Rice, if you're big into Rice, then you just do whatever you can to get him. And maybe you think it's unsustainable, kind of what Garrett Wilson has been doing. But Garrett Wilson has been a target hog and a high volume target earner throughout his career. So, but is Justin Fields kind of the risk there? Bo, what's up, my man? Says, is Puka worth JSN plus someone like Jaylen Warren? Yes, in my mind. But JSN's close behind, right? So Puka, he's the wide receiver 1 on the season. He's got 108 fantasy points and half point. He's averaging 21.6 points per game. High-powered offense with the Rams, and Stafford looking like he's, having a career year or in line with his career year kind of production. The good years, not a down year. JSN averaging 16.3 fantasy points per game. He's the wide receiver 4. So he's close behind, but the difference between 21.6 fantasy points per game and 16.3 to me is a huge jump. And someone like Jaylen Warren is completely replaceable in my mind. I think he's a fine flex. Stroud, Stroud is completely replaceable. Even in Superflex, he's kind of a QB2, fine, middle of the road. He just obviously had a good week against the Ravens. Marv or Ladd or combination, I think I would still do it plus Marv or Ladd too. I think Jaylen Warren or Stroud are the least expensive pieces there. If you can get away with giving one of those. I have a very solid team, and I want to know what you think he's worth. Completely willing to do 2 or 3 for 1. Yeah, I would do whatever it takes to get Puka if that person is interested in JSN plus Warren or Stroud, if it takes those 3. And then if he doesn't want those 3, obviously if he did it for less, like just those 2, like Jaylen Warren and JSN, I would do it. But then I would offer, JSN plus Ladd or JSN plus Marv. And I would try to get a 2 for 1. If you can get Puka, just try to do it. Garrett's getting lucky with the garbage time touchdowns. Yeah, bad offense. That's kind of what I was getting at too. Like why you might feel comfortable with that trade. Rice, wide receiver 2 upside overall, in my opinion. AJ Brown for Worthy is a lateral move, I think. I would agree. Totally agree. We've just, we've seen Mahomes having a good year, passing it a little bit more. And except for last game, the Eagles haven't been passing it a ton. But no, I totally agree with your thinking there, Nihal. Sammy says, want to upgrade running back room, but what do you think I should do? The team right now, Superflex, QB, Jaden Daniels, Dak. Okay, I love that. And Darnold, very nice. Oh, Puka, Debo, and Pearsall and Higgins. Okay, Higgins is the weak link, obviously, but Trey Tucker, Ellick, fine. Tight end Kraft. RBs are Javonte, Kamara, and Warren. Yeah, I would try to get rid of Kamara and Warren as fast as you can. I would try to upgrade on those 2. You're good with Javonte. Hold on to him. He's going to be your anchor. You could move, if anyone wants to pay anything for Higgins, maybe they're excited about the Joe Flacco move. Higgins had a touchdown, but hadn't done a lot. If you can move Higgins, I think he's the one you want to move. I would not move Jaden Daniels or Dak or Darnold. I would hold on to those 3 QBs for security going forward. We already seen Jaden miss some time, and these 3 guys are super valuable. So you're not going to be like the place that you had to draft Darnold. You got him so cheap that now he's paying off so much. You don't want to get rid of that. So I would try to move either Pearsall or Higgins plus one of these running backs, Kamara and Warren, and then aim for a better running back, somebody like Quinshon Judkins, Josh Jacobs. I like David Montgomery better than those guys. Travis Etienne seems fine. Achan, if you could get him. Maybe you might be able to trade for Bill before, it's too late. I think it'd be possible. Bill's a little bit riskier, but very exciting piece. So depending on like your league mates and what they're interested in, Kamara, his name holds so much value. You're going to be able to get a lot for Kamara, but they're starting to work in Kendre Miller, and Kamara's fantasy points per touch continue to go down, down, down. He goes another week without scoring. He's only got 1 touchdown on the season. He's averaging 9.7 fantasy points per game and 0.054 fantasy points per touch. So even having 90 touches, he's in the same category for me as Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard, Alvin Kamara, extremely underwhelming. Chase Brown, another guy, getting a ton of touches and not doing anything with it. DeAndre Swift is in a similar category. DeAndre Swift just doesn't have the competition. I think Pollard with Tajay Spears coming back, with Kamara, with Kendre Miller coming on, they're going to face some competition. So, yeah. And like I said, I think Gainwell is going to push Warren for touches too. Yo, what's up, Fantasy Dog? How we doing, my friend? Hope you're having a great night. Thanks for the like. Make sure you guys like this stream. Oh, and the super chat. Great analysis here. Hey, man, appreciate that. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you for supporting the stream. My man, always good to see you. Hope you're having a great night. Let me know what you got going on, how your fantasy matchups went. You got any waiver questions you're looking at for this week going into week 6? Appreciate you. The big dog, Fantasy Dog. Yeah, that's kind of what I would do there. Move off Kamara and Warren. The rest of your team looks really solid, Sammy. LK says, is Troy Franklin a viable option for flex? Do you think he's beating out Mims for wide receiver 2? I think so. That's kind of how it's been going, right? I don't know exactly what happened in week 5 with the Broncos at the end there. Let me just pull that up to confirm the trend continued. But yeah, box score on that one. Denver receiving, it was Troy Franklin, only had 3 targets, but he had 35 yards, 5 targets, 3 receptions. Mims. Yeah, Mims is just doing nothing. And if I looked at the snap counts, I think Troy Franklin is their wide receiver 2 right now. Bo Nix threw it 39 times. A lot of those targets were going to 15 to Sutton and Franklin combined, 6 to Ingram, 3 to Harvey, and then a very fragmented target share there. But I think Franklin you could do worse at flex. We already saw one big game from him. I think that was week 2, wasn't it? So you can definitely do worse than Franklin at flex. But yeah, I don't think Mims has got it right now. It's hard to know when Mims is going to hit. We've seen Mims have big weeks. Just like, when is it coming? They've talked up Franklin too. They've liked the things they've seen, I think out of him and his progression. Yeah, what's up, Ezekiel? How we doing? Schmitty says, someone in my 2 QB league wants to upgrade from Geno Smith. Well, of course, we all do. He wants Rattler, and I want Jacobs. He said he might take the offer if I threw in an RB2. My RBs are Monty, Rachaad White, Henderson, and Marks. Yeah, I would pretty much trade anyone to get Josh Jacobs, except I obviously like Monty a lot. Rachaad White's in a good spot right now. We like Rachaad White after that, but his value is going to go down as soon as Bucky comes back. Like I was saying, though, maybe Bucky's value goes down too if they do use Rachaad White more. Henderson, we want that breakout. We're waiting for that breakout, but Jacobs is already the guy. Marks, we've seen some of the breakout. I think last week was just not the right game script for him. But it seems like the Patriots are just not going to stop giving Ramondre work, even though he fumbles the ball. So I don't know what it would take, honestly. Henderson can be hyper efficient. It might be hard to know when to start him with Ramondre still getting some touches and goal line opportunities, all that kind of stuff. He wants to upgrade from Geno Smith. He wants Rattler, and you want Jacobs. Then it might take the offer if I threw an RB2. Yeah, I would kind of open it up to him. Like I would want Jacobs over Marks going forward. I would want Jacobs over all of these guys going forward. So try not to give up Montgomery, but essentially, week to week, it's hard to know. Rachaad White, what's his value going to be in a couple of weeks when Bucky's back? So I would definitely move Rachaad White, sell high. And then Marks, we've seen his lows, we've seen his highs. I'm still optimistic going forward, but Josh Jacobs is much more consistent and has that extremely high ceiling. So get Josh Jacobs any way you can. Hopefully you don't have to give up Montgomery. And then if you can keep one of, preferably keeping Marks, but if you can keep one of Henderson and Marks, you still have some late season upside, right? I would try to give up Rachaad White. Yeah, Diggs is looking good for sure. He was excited. He was excited to play the Bills. It's kind of fun. Sunday Night Football. Start Ladd or Michael Carter this week. I'm going to go with Ladd. I know it sounds crazy. Michael Carter's fine. They definitely are going to have some faith in him going forward the way that Emari DeMercado, fumbled that ball and completely flubbed his opportunity. But we saw Zonovan Knight getting involved with, I think he had a touchdown, right? He had that touchdown. Michael Carter looked good. I started him in a bunch of leagues. He's still pretty underwhelming. 0.66 fantasy points per touch. He's only had 24 touches on the season, only one touchdown. He just had it, right? And then his highest score, that 15.8 he just had. Give me Ladd. I think it comes down to matchups as well because the Cardinals play the Colts. I see them playing from behind and not really doing well in this game. I don't love the Cardinals. The Chargers at Miami is a good matchup. So let's target that one. And I'm going to hope that Ladd can have some games like we're expecting him to have and not just stick with what he's been doing. So I would go for Ladd. But if you feel strongly about Michael Carter, there's a story there that he just becomes their interim bell cow for the next. I mean, it seems like a little bit. It seems like, didn't we just hear Benson might not be back for, what'd they say? They don't really know. Actually, I was thinking Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen is who I heard of. Braylon Allen's going to be out apparently for like 8 to 12 weeks or something. AJ Brown or Zay Flowers rest of season. I think it's Zay Flowers, but it's close. And like my heart would say AJ Brown, but Zay Flowers has been doing well. Zay Flowers can be pretty hard to know though, like, boom and bust. I guess you could argue AJ Brown's in a similar way. So I don't have a great feel on that, a great answer on that, but I think I slightly lean to Zay, right? Yeah, you kind of agree. Appreciate you, Fantasy Dog. Thanks for being here as always, my man. Fantasy Dog says, I got Marks as my RB45 on a lot of 10-teamers, dropping him on waivers, right? I would be holding him. I'm going to hold Marks where you got him. For some reason, it was just not the right game script for him. He still had, I think 7 rushing attempts. Maybe it was 9 total touches. I think it was off my memory. It was just not his game. Chubb got the touchdown. If Marks got the touchdown, we probably wouldn't be complaining as much. The Texans were throwing the ball a lot. We're not going to see Stroud have many 4-touchdown games. Xavier Hutchinson having 2 touchdowns. That never happens again. So I definitely want to hold Marks going forward. I'm actually still really in on Marks and a big fan. I think this is just kind of how it goes in these backfields where there's 2 competent rushers, is that any given week, one guy can go off. The next week, he might not get used as much. So I still have a lot of faith in Woody Marks being a worthwhile stash and a good flex play going forward. Let's scroll. He's been averaging 0.91 fantasy points per touch. He's got 42 touches on the season, 2 touchdowns. We saw him have 25.9 fantasy points 2 weeks ago. He's got the same amount of fantasy points per touch and touches as someone like Rashad White. He's right in line with Rashad White. So I think the Texans are maybe a worse team than the Buccaneers, but yeah, unless your league is just so shallow, I couldn't think of a reason to give up Woody Marks. I don't want to overreact to like one bad week. LK says he also has Ridley, who's going up against Vegas. I think he can have a big game against this week also. I think he can. It's tough with Ridley. He's been dealing with some injury, and the Titans have been pretty bad, but had a nice bounce back win there against the Cardinals, mostly in part due to Amari DiMercado having a bad week. Yo, what's up, art hip hop friends? How we doing, my man? Hope you're having a great Tuesday. Let's see. I'm curious to see what Fantasy Dog said. Wow, Lad over Carter. Didn't see that coming, dog. Yeah, I think the Chargers are better than the Cardinals. I'm not super high on the Cardinals. Do they start to, we already saw Bam Knight poach a touchdown. They're not going to give up on it. Amari DiMercado, does he get doghoused a little bit? Probably, but there's a bunch of weeks there where you didn't even want to start Benson when he was the starting back. So is Michael Carter, always the start? I don't think so. I want to see, the matchup. Like I said, against the Colts, I don't think it's a great matchup for the Cardinals. And they might have to abandon the run game at some point and just be throwing it more. But Ladd, I'm not giving up on Ladd. I know Ladd's good. I think the matchup against Miami is like a really good matchup to target. Yeah, yes, sir, against the Colts. Yeah, who loves the Cards? I don't know. No one likes Kyler Murray, apparently. LOL. How we doing? Two mules in a cart. What's up, my man? Good to see you. Ezekiel says, should I pick up Theo or Njoku? That's a great question. Jackson Dart has been leaning very heavily on the tight ends. Malik Neighbors out for the season. I'm coming around to it. I think Theo Johnson is a good pickup. The way that he's targeting the tight ends as a whole. Bellinger still works in, but Theo Johnson has a nice role going forward. At the same time, now we have Dylan Gabriel targeting the tight ends at a high clip, targeting Njoku a lot more. So talent-based, Njoku is better. 100%, no doubt. Team-based, I think it's debatable who's better, the Browns with Dylan Gabriel or the Giants with Dart. I'm going to do a slight lean. I mean, my head says Theo Johnson because of what we're seeing and his utilization, and he's starting to put it together. But my heart knows that Njoku is the better tight end. This is a tough one. If you're going to only get one of them, I might lean to Njoku. But you could probably put waiver bids on both and just hope you get one of them, kind of thing. Nihal wants to know Henderson, Carter, or Ladd this week. I'm still going to roll with Ladd, and then I would be Carter over Henderson, just because I think his role is bigger right now, and we got to see it from Henderson. I don't want to just expect and predict the breakout, but I think it's coming soon. I think we're close. Ramondre, I don't know how long he can hold him off, but it seems like the coaches still believe in Ramondre. Yeah, the 7 touches, 2 fumbles 2 weeks ago. Yikes for Stevenson, right? Two Mules saying, yeah, what's up, Frizzle? Two Mules says, I was in 5th in the main event. The wife entered the room, neighbors towards ACL. Definitely related, definitely correlated event. Still hanging tough with 829 overall. Okay, there you go. Because you had neighbors. Yeah, it's tough. Got to figure out how to get her out of the house on Sundays. The bad juju goes back decades. Ha! Yeah, if I can give you any advice, send her, pay for her hair salon, get a blowout, get her hair done. All that kind of stuff can take a few hours. Don't send the wives to get the nails done. That doesn't take very long. You got to pick something that takes a lot longer. The hair takes a lot longer, so that's a good way. I've learned. You can also let the wife go to brunch with her friends and, I don't know, offer to pay for it or something like that, and then brunch can last a long time. Smitty wants to keep White, though, and use him while Bucky is out. Yeah, I can see that. Then maybe try to move Henderson if he's interested. I don't have an RB1, just RB2, so while Bucky's out, I was going to use White since he'll be the RB1. Yeah, White's getting good usage for sure. That makes sense to me. Ezekiel, what's up, my man? Start White or Adunze this week. We're going to go with Rome Adunze. Off the top of my head, the Bears have a matchup on Monday Night Football against the Washington Commanders. Should be a fun game. Should be a shootout. It's on the road. It's a 50.5 over-under with the Washington favored. Lines minus 4.5 Washington. But I think it's going to be a really fun game. That is one of the higher scoring games on the entire Week 6 lineup. For Rachaad White, he's going up against... He's at a home game against the 49ers. I think the 49ers are a pretty tough defense and a good team. That's a 47.5 over under. Tampa Bay's favored, minus 2.5. So it's pretty even there. We saw Kyron Williams get the 2 receiving touchdowns against San Francisco on Thursday Night Football. Can Rachaad White do something similar? Yeah, but I think maybe. Rome Odunze, though, is on the season wide receiver 10, and he just missed a week. So I had that sorted wrong. I was sorting by fantasy points, not fantasy points per game. Fantasy points per game, Rome Odunze is the number 4 wide receiver on this season, averaging 17.4 fantasy points. That's more than Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's more than Garrett Wilson, George Pickens, Deebo Samuel. So Rome Odunze is a must start in every format going forward. We can't bench Rome Odunze. There's no way. Rachaad White's fun. He's a good fill-in. But if you don't need Rachaad White this week, try to sell him high because who knows when Bucky comes back. Could be soon. Art Hip Hop wants to know IR spot, half point per reception, Ayuk or Coker. Give me Coker. He could be back sooner. He was dealing with a quad injury that happened right before the season started. Ayuk, we've known about his knee injury, and I haven't heard a lot about his practice window opening up. Or am I wrong? Have you heard that yet? Did they open up his 21-day practice window for Ayuk? I don't believe so. For Coker, I'm pretty sure it's opening this week. I could double check that. But I would go with Coker just because he's coming back sooner, I would think. How do I feel about picking up Derrick Henry 4-1 right now? To trade for him, I'm not super excited about Derrick Henry, honestly. It's tough. Week 1, he completely went off and had, 28.7 fantasy points and half point. But his floor has been extremely low. He's only scored above 10 points in 2 out of the 5 weeks. And one of those was almost a 30-point game. So that's really inflating his numbers. He's averaging 11.5 fantasy points per game. But if we excluded that first week, it'd be so much lower. 0.84 fantasy points per touch. And it's not even really his fault because he's got 4 touchdowns. It's just his volatility is insane, and he's not getting consistently, enough touches in all these games. His snap share is down. He's losing snaps to Justice Hill, who's playing in the passing game, and we saw that last year too. Tough to trust Derrick Henry right now. It seems like their defense is so bad. They're playing from behind a lot of the time. So the game script is favoring them playing from behind, passing more. Justice Hill comes in. We know who Derrick Henry is. He can definitely win you weeks, but it just seems like the consistency right now, the floor is never been lower. Appreciate you, 2 mules. How do I feel about Kyle Pitts? I'm cool with Kyle Pitts. I think I'm a big fan of Michael Penix Jr. And so he's going to have some bad weeks, some good weeks, Michael Penix, but when he has good weeks, his receivers, his pass catchers are going to eat. So I think, like we saw, I think it was week 4, Pitts can pay off, I think. Oh, appreciate you, Art Hip Hop. Thanks for being here, my friend. Thanks for the kind words. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. Welcome in. What's up, D2 Pac-Man? How we doing, brother? We got Kindle, Jazz, YouTube in here. What's up? Awesome Republic. How we doing? Captain Moist Beard. That's right. Let me catch up with y'all. Okay, thoughts on Godwin? Will he have a big game? I don't know. He's had a lot of targets the last 2 weeks, not a lot of production, right? I got offered him and Hampton for Taylor. No. Obviously not going to do it. But if Godwin was fully healthy and if Hampton was fully healthy, you could think about it. But obviously, we're never trading Jonathan Taylor in 2025. He is averaging 22.7 fantasy points per game, the highest among everyone, all positions. He's had a 31.3 high score of his, and he's had 2 30-point games this year. He's averaging 1 fantasy point per touch. He's 110 touches. He's only behind Christian McCaffrey. 7 touchdowns. He leads the touchdowns among everyone. He had 2 games with 3 touchdowns. He's had 3 out of his 5 games with more than 20 fantasy points, and he's averaging more than 20 fantasy points. So Jonathan Taylor is him. He's the 101 in fantasy right now. Then Puka. Probably then Bijan. Probably then McCaffrey or Gibbs. McCaffrey's just getting used so much. Correlated events. Oh my. Yeah. D2 Pac-Man. How you doing, brother? Good to see you. Should I trade Genty and JMO for Kamara right now? Or for Kamara, Michael Carter, and Pearsall? No. Or maybe Genty and JMO for Kamara and Rice. Genty and JMO for Kamara and Rice is interesting. I'm trying to sell Kamara. I don't want Kamara right now. I want Genty, actually. I think Genty's going to be much better rest of season. The Raiders are kind of hard to trust, but so are the Saints. Genty's ceiling is so much higher than Kamara's going forward. And he's averaging more fantasy points per touch. I think he's got, more touchdowns, even more touches, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go scroll down a little bit to Kamara. There he is. Yeah, Genty's got more use, and he's getting more fantasy points per touch. So let's keep it with Genty. But then Genty and JMO's been disappointing, but it's hard to know when to start JMO. He's always been a spike week guy. He's narrowly missed having some big weeks. The Lions, you want a piece of that offense. You want some of that high scoring potential. All that to say, Genty and JMO for Kamara and Rice. My worry there is Kamara is going to be less and less useful. He's kind of already like a low end flex, but less and less useful as the season goes on. And maybe Kendre Miller gets more involved. And then with Rice, obviously we love Rashee Rice. So it'd be like trading Genty for Rice. And then Kamara might be a slight upgrade over JMO just for the potential higher touch kind of floor, but honestly a lower ceiling than JMO at this point. I think that's tough. I don't know that you have to trade Genty, but if you're really interested in getting Rice, you're probably going to have to trade someone in the Genty caliber. And I think it's possible that Rice can outscore Genty on a per game basis once he's back. I don't know what the odds are. I mean, I think the odds are that he would probably have a higher weekly floor than Genty. So if you really want Rice, but I'm in on Genty. Kindle, what's up? Kindle Jazz, YouTube, how we doing? Thanks for being here. Hope you're having a great Tuesday, everyone. Make sure you hit that like button and vote in the poll. Let me know your poll answer. I'm going to close the YouTube poll in just a bit. Kindle says, in half point, I'm going to drop Troy Franklin and get Mason Taylor for a flex and drop Isaiah Bond for Haskins on the Chargers. Good or no? I'm cool with that. Yeah, I'm cool. I don't like flexing tight ends if I don't have to. So I don't, the Franklin for Mason in order to flex Mason Taylor. I don't know how I feel about that. It's interesting. You must have like a really good tight end already. I like Mason Taylor for tight end depth for a tight end too, or if you're streaming tight ends, then to start Mason Taylor. And then I would definitely agree. I would drop Isaiah Bond for Haskins if you're sure you can get Haskins. Because what you also could do, kind of what I'm getting at is like maybe you drop Isaiah Bond for Haskins, and then your backup waiver is dropping Isaiah Bond for Mason Taylor. And if you don't get Haskins for your flex, then you'd get Mason Taylor. And if you don't get either one of them, you could just keep flexing Troy Franklin. Because I think going forward, for the near term until Amarian Hampton's back, I probably would flex Haskins sight unseen. Just, the whole Michigan narrative, Harbaugh, coach of the Chargers, played at coached at Michigan. Haskins was at Michigan during that time. He's got that connection to him. I think Kamani Vidal is fine. I'm not super confident. I'm not as confident as I was about Michael Carter being the guy over DeMercado. I'm not as confident as that to say Haskins over Vidal, but I'm definitely wavering Haskins ahead of Vidal. And I think he'd be flex worthy going forward. We know the Chargers can definitely pay off for their running backs. Hampton was getting a huge workload and doing very well with it. So can Haskins do a version of that? I think so. I think it'll be flex worthy. Awesome Republic. Yo, what's up? How we doing? Okay. 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, and 2 flex, and it's PPR. You got Bijan. You're good. You got Sutton. You're feeling good. Caleb Williams, very nice. So you got Bijan and Caleb coming off the bye. AJ Brown. There we go. You want to trade Bijan, Sutton, Caleb Williams, and AJ Brown for Achane and Puka. That's a lot. I mean, I was just saying try to get Puka at any cost, but Bijan is one of those guys that Puka and Bijan to me are in the same tier. So like they have the same value. Puka's a little bit higher right now, but it's the same tier. And then Achane would be better than Sutton and AJ Brown. If it's one QB, you're throwing in Caleb Williams. You're going to have your other QB is May or Purdy. Okay, you can afford to lose Caleb Williams because you have May. And then he goes on bye in week 14. Don't worry about that right now. So I like this idea, but you're giving up AJ Brown and Sutton. You'll then start Puka and McLaurin, but McLaurin's out. So you're really, do you have enough wide receivers to cover? But then if you give up Bijan, you'll be starting Achane and Michael Carter and Woody. And then you need another flex. And McLaurin's still out, so you need another wide receiver. I think it's close. I don't love that you have Michael Carter and DeMercado and Benson. I'm assuming Benson's in your IR. I would consider the trade, but you need to get one other piece because you're going to end up having to pick up a player off the waiver wire. And unless there's just like a good player on the waiver wire that you'd want to flex immediately, you need to get one more piece in that Achane Puka side so that you have someone to flex. And you need like potentially a wide receiver, preferably, so to cover for McLaurin being out if he doesn't come back. But I think it's close. I mean, Achane and Puka is pretty nice. And for me, in single QB, Caleb's replaceable with May, straight up. Two Mules says, the Jaden Blue bag holders remind me of the jilted bride waiting for the groom who never shows up. We'll see. We haven't seen it out of Blue yet. I'm hoping Blue, Golden, Jarquez Hunter can come on in the second half of the season. Definitely for like home leagues, for managed leagues. We're already about 5 weeks in, so just under a third of the season underway. But for best ball, where that's the bags. Those are the bags I have the most of for Blue. We're only 1/3 of the way through 1/4 of the tournament, so we're only 1/9 of the way done. Or not 1/9. We're only 9% of the way done. So for Best Ball Mania, I still think we'll see. We'll see. Obviously, Javonte is killing it. Did not expect that. So it's gonna be hard for Blue to earn a role. The coaches aren't ready to hand it over. They trust Javonte a lot. But can Blue have an explosive week or two at the end of the season when it counts? To be determined. Same thing with Jarquez Hunter too. I think with Corum fumbling, not looking great, Jarquez Hunter, we might see some opportunity for him to get some work in. And it's a good signal that Kyron's already ceding some of that workload to Corum. And then if Corum gets replaced, can Jarquez have a role? Would I trade Dobbins for Addison? I think I would, because Dobbins has like no ceiling. His highest scoring week through 5 weeks is 15 points. He's averaging 14 points. So he's essentially just consistent. He's got 83 touches, 4 touchdowns. He's that guy you plug into your flex and you're just going to get 14, 15 points a week. So if you need that consistency, I like him. But Addison can be wide receiver 1 on a given week. We saw him do it last season. I think it was a 3-touchdown game. Might have been a 2-touchdown game, but Addison can definitely put up 30 points. So I think personally, it's close because Dobbins has been doing fine. Dobbins has gotten some touchdowns. If Harvey starts to take over more touches, or if the touchdowns aren't there, I think it's a little bit harder for Dobbins to pay off meaningfully. But he's been fine. He just really has no ceiling. Like you don't even get the same ceiling you do as, Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt just had 18 points with 2 touchdowns. Dobbins hasn't done something like that yet. Harvey had that 18-point game. Dobbins hadn't done that. Dobbins, to me, and Barkley right now are in a very, very similar spot. But I think Barkley has a better chance of turning it around and having big multi-touchdown weeks and having some big yardage weeks, where I think Dobbins is going to be consistently 60 to 100 yards, maybe gets the touchdown. So I think I like Addison, but I could see how maybe J.J. McCarthy coming back could be concerning. Some might say. Some people love J.J. McCarthy. Oh, 2 Mules say not feeling so smug without zero Debo. Yeah. I don't know what it was, but I really came around to the Debo idea in August, in late July even. And so I ended up drafting a lot of Debo in best ball. I think I had like 14, 15% in best ball mania. And, one of the things that I did come around on, because I was not drafting him as much when he was even cheaper in the beginning of the summer. But when I talked to Ben Gretsch on stream, he was just so convinced that the Commanders were an offense you wanted to be a part of, and Jaden Daniels could be the MVP candidate as soon as this year, that I was like, okay, well, let's just get pieces of that. And there's a lot of other wide receiver 2s, Devonta Smith, George Pickens, to name a few, that were already going before Debo. And I was like, well, maybe you'd want to have the wide receiver 2 on the Commanders at that price. And he turns out he's been the wide receiver 1 on the team so far. So that's pretty nice. And then, yeah, McLaurin definitely being out doesn't help, or doesn't hurt, but McLaurin should come back. He's been unhealthy this year a little bit. But yeah, I feel good about Debo being a good pick. That was pretty surprisingly good. Captain Moistbeard wants to know, trade away Jaden Daniels and Ridley for Baker and Bill. I don't think I want to get rid of Jaden Daniels. I do like getting rid of Ridley. I do like getting Bill. And I also do like Baker. If you need running back, I think this is fine, especially if it's single quarterback. But if you're going to have Ridley or Bill on your bench or in your flex, and you're kind of like they're on your bench a lot of weeks too, I think the downgrade from Jaden Daniels to Baker is enough where I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. But I would like to get Bill on any team that I can get him. He is averaging I just had it here. Where'd it go? Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is averaging 1.21 fantasy points per touch on 48 touches. That is kind of in its own ballpark. That's more fantasy points per touch than Jonathan Taylor, although Jonathan Taylor has 110 touches, so it's nowhere near the same volume. But of guys who have the same volume, you could look at Rashad White has 0.92 fantasy points per touch on 49 touches. Like I said, Bill has 1.21. Also, on 51 touches, Ramondre Stevenson has 0.86 fantasy points per touch. Derrick Henry has 0.84 fantasy points per touch on 68 touches. So Bill is averaging almost 0.4 more fantasy points per touch than Derrick Henry on only 20 less touches. So yeah, that maybe the sample size goes up, the per touch fantasy point number comes down a little bit, but still pretty good. Pretty good for Bill. Yeah. Thanks for being here, Art Hip Hop. Good to see you. The floor has never been lower. Yeah, I know, right? We got Cody in here. How we doing? El Pollo, what's up? What's up? I think I'm almost caught up. I'll try to catch up quickly though. Standard scoring. Yeah, that's tough. I like Jaden Daniels a lot. Yo, what's up? What's up, Che? How we doing, Che Ambrose? Shout out from Wyoming. Hey, shout out. Shout out. How we doing? The Cowboys out there. Should I trade Alvin Kamara for Bill Krosky Merritt in full PPR? Thanks. Let's do it. Yes. Let's make the trade. Let's risk it a little bit for the biscuit. I was just talking up Bill. He's averaging 1.21 fantasy points per touch. He just put up a 26-point week with 2 touchdowns. He's on the Commanders. We love the Commanders. Great offensive line attached to Jaden Daniels. The ceiling is there. He's also averaging 11.6 fantasy points per game through 5 games. For Alvin Kamara, it's all name value at this point. He's only averaging 9.7 fantasy points per game in half-point PPR. He's averaging 0.54 fantasy points per touch. So, and in 90 touches. So literally, he's averaging half as many fantasy points per touch as Bill. Only has 1 touchdown. His highest scoring week was 13 points. He's on the Saints. We don't love the Saints. We like Kellen Moore. We like their fast pace, but he's also losing work to Kendre Miller. So I'm in on Bill. I'm Bill over Kamara rest of season. In full PPR still. Oh, yo, D2, no problem. Let me catch up with that. Let me go back to your question. Yeah, sorry you missed it. Let me see. I'm scrolling. I don't see. I'll find it. I wish there was a way I could highlight. I'm sure there's a way. I'm also in StreamYard. So, okay, here it is. D2 Pac-Man wants to know, should I trade Genty and JMO for Kamara and Carter and Pearsall? I think no on that one. Because I don't want Kamara. And Michael Carter and Pearsall is not enough to make up JMO. Or sorry, not enough to make up Genty. Should I trade Genty and JMO for Kamara and Rice? That one, it's up to you. Because essentially in my mind, it's just Genty for Rice. Because JMO, Kamara, they're both kind of low in flex. But do you want Genty rest of season or do you want Rice rest of season? Genty's going to be out week 8. Rice is out week 6 and week 10 with a bye. So I think Rice might be slightly better on a per game basis, but he's going to miss 2 games. Genty's only going to miss 1 game. That makes a slight difference. Genty's been good. I mean, he scored more than 30 points back there a couple weeks ago. He had 32.5 fantasy points. Very good. Good to see it, D2 Pac-Man. Hope you're doing good, man. Yeah. I like Genty. Don't like Kamara. A lot of Kamara questions tonight. I'm not surprised. I drafted a good amount of Kamara this summer as well. I thought he'd be better. I thought he'd be scoring a little bit more touchdowns. I thought the receiving floor would be safe and allow him to put up some more points. He's just not really doing it. Really bad on a fantasy points per touch comparison. LK says he's got Dak, Scadaboo, Jonathan Taylor, Waddle, Olave, Hunter Henry, Ridley, RJ Harvey, Henderson, Troy, Franklin, T. Higgins, or it could be Jaden Higgins, DeAndre Hopkins. I also had Joe and Neighbors. Dang. Somehow 3-2 with this team. Yeah, it's a good team, though. It's a lot of good pieces. And you got JT, Waddle going forward. Very nice. So nice pieces. Some nice pieces there. And then Dak's been good. Art Hip Hop wants to know hip hop. Who do you think is the number one wide receiver in Cleveland rest of season, half point PPR? Who do you think is the answer? I think it's Jerry Jeudy. I still think it's Jerry Jeudy. He's just not going to be as consistent. I don't think we're going to get as good of a season we got out of him last year. But Jerry Jeudy can put up some big weeks. He can go off. Yeah, fantasy dog. The Wentz McCarthy situation. I would want to get McCarthy back in there as soon as possible and get him more reps, I think. London or Rome, rest of season, says El Pollo 33. You know what? It's Rome Odunze. It really is. Rome Odunze has proven it. He's gotten, the 5 touchdowns. He's got almost 300 yards in 4 games. He's had some big weeks. London is doing fine. He's only got 1 touchdown. He also has just under 300 yards, 269 through his 4 weeks. London is averaging 10.7 and half point PPR. Rome, on the other hand, is averaging 17.4 and half point PPR. And it's driven by touchdowns, but touchdowns matter. So rest of season, I think it'll be closer, but still give me Rome. I'm a believer now. I've seen the Rome breakout. It's happening. Yo, what's up? Looks like Shaq, but it's SHQ. Shaquex. Got Cody, Splash Zone. I'll make my way to y'all's questions. Thanks for being here. Make sure you guys slap that like button. I'm going live tomorrow night with Huhames and Hartman. I need to check my DMs because I'm not sure whose channel we're going to be on yet. But, yeah, what up? King J the 4th on Twitter. Love it. If you don't already follow me on Twitter and you're on Twitter, if you're on X, follow me at FFB Garage. You'll know when I'm going live and you'll see when I'm streaming with other cool people on their channels and stuff. I usually try to post it on a post on YouTube as well in case you're not on X and you just want to know. But tomorrow night, we're either going to be on Huhames' channel tomorrow night or Hartman's channel. So make sure you're sub there. Captain wants to know, I need a running back bad. My RB2 is Kamara, and he's a bust. Yeah. Got to make a trade. Trade Devontae and Javonte for Gibbs. Full PPR. I have Bucky. My wide receivers are CD, Higgins, and JMO. I would not, which is crazy to say. If you would have asked me this anytime before, week 3-4, I would have said yes. But no, you need Devontae with your wide receivers. We don't know how much longer CeeDee Lamb's going to be out. T. Higgins, you can't trust. JMO, you can hardly trust. You're going to want to start Devontae every week and then try to flex one of JMO or Higgins, especially when CD comes back. But until then, you might have to start him. Javonte is a good start. Javonte right now, he's averaging the 19 points per game. Gibbs is averaging 17. Javonte's highest scoring week was 26.5. Gibbs' highest was 24.5. Gibbs has scored more than 17 points in 2 out of 5 weeks. Javonte has scored more than 17 points in 4 out of 5 weeks. Javonte's got the .99 fantasy points per touch with 96 touches and 6 touchdowns, the second most. Gibbs has .92 fantasy points per touch on 92 touches with only 5 touchdowns, third most. So it's obviously I like Jahmyr Gibbs over Javonte Williams. I like the Lions over Dallas, but Devontae is a really nice piece as well. And so that's enough that I want to keep Devontae and Javonte over Gibbs. Pains me to say because I love Gibbs. Yo, what's up? X Shaquex 14 player league. I have Etienne. Nice. Got Walker. Okay. Bucky Irving. It hurts for now, but he's good. And D Montgomery. Love it. Should I trade one? And if so, who? My wide receivers are Amon-Ra. Love it. J-Mo. Okay. And McLaurin. So big Detroit fan because you got 3 of those guys. I think you might need to upgrade wide receiver a little bit. J-Mo's hard to trust, but he's got a good ceiling. McLaurin's injured, and he's been a little underwhelming, but we like being tied to the Commanders' offense. We like those pieces. I think you could upgrade wide receiver and get a better wide receiver 2 for yourself by maybe trading Ken Walker if someone's interested. I think Etienne's a nice piece for you right now. A little bit more consistent than Walker and a similar ceiling. So he's been a little bit better. Montgomery, I don't want to get rid of. I love Montgomery's ceiling. I would keep Montgomery over Ken Walker. And then Bucky Irving, this might be the time to trade him. If you can get a really nice wide receiver 2 for Bucky Irving, this might be the time to do it because my main concern now is, does Bucky come back this week or next week? And then he has the week 9 bye coming up soon too. Is Bucky going to be hampered going forward, and he's going to split more of the workload with Rachaad White than he was before the injury? Because Rachaad White's very capable, and the coaches, they're big fans. They talk up Rachaad White all the time. Todd Bowles, head coach, loves Rachaad White. And Josh Grizzard has been talking up Rachaad White, all summer as well. And so Rachaad White getting the opportunity, both coaches, offensive coordinator and head coach, are lockstep. They're in line. They're the same thinking. So I've got Bucky in my home league. I've got him in my oldest dynasty league. I'm probably not moving him, but I might need to. I might need to move Bucky in my home league and do something to upgrade my wide receivers because I have CeeDee Lamb still out, and I have T. Higgins too, and he's been hard to start. So I might need to trade Bucky going forward. If you can get a player who's already had their bye, I don't think you can get Rome Odunze. I think people are going to want to hold on to Rome Odunze, but like best case scenario, if you can get Rome Odunze for Bucky Irving 1-for-1, I would do that in an instant. Who else do I think wide receiver wise would be worth it to get rid of Bucky? You might want to get Garrett Wilson. You might want to get, Deebo Samuel. After that, I'm not so sure, but I don't want to give up Bucky Irving for a cheap price. I still want to get a lot for him because he can still be who we thought he was. I'm just a little bit more worried about the injury now. Yeah, Splash Zone got another question. I thought it was the same question because the 14 league had me going. Appreciate the question, Shaquex. What up, JT? How we doing, brother? Trone Force in the house. Good to see you. Splash Zone says 14 team got. It was the same question. Splash Zone is Shaquex. We figured it out. We cracked the code. I was so confused there for a second. I was like, I thought I was seeing double. Good to see you, Splash Zone. Accidentally logged in using the kids' YouTube account, I assume. Or maybe you have another username. My first thought was like, did you sign in with your son or daughter's YouTube account? It was just on the laptop or something, or the TV, or the phone. D2 Pac-Man says, I like Kamara's schedule compared to Genty, and I like Rice all day over JMO. Yeah. But for me, I would be comparing Rice and Genty to each other, and then Kamara to JMO. And you could make the case, if you really like Kamara's schedule, I think you could make the case. Jalen Higgins, which makes it worse. Yeah, it does make it worse. It does, but not much worse. T. Higgins has been terrible. What about Kyron Williams and Zay Flowers for Judkins McBride? Which side would I prefer? I think I would prefer the Kyron Williams and Zay Flowers. I think Kyron Williams is still good. He's still averaging 15 points per game. Judkins is right there with 14 and a half. Kyron's had a bigger spike week with 27 last week. Judkins' best game is still ahead of him. His best game was about 19 and a half. He almost had that another touchdown last week too. They got like called back. I think it was holding. I think Kyron's on a better team, better offense. So I have Kyron over Judkins, and then McBride is fine. I'm not super in on McBride. I think Zay Flowers is also a decent wide receiver. Had a big week one, kind of calmed down since, but get Lamar Jackson back in there will be fine. So I'd like the Kyron Zay Flowers side on that. Captain says, rate my 12-man PPR team, Dak Stafford. So I like this, especially if it's one quarterback. Stafford's doing good. Puka, Amika, Pickens. Bro, you're set. You're set. You're going to win this league. You got Puka and Amika. You're good. Pickens, cherry on top. Keon is nice, fun. Achane, Hampton. It was good while it lasted, but Hampton's going to be out a little bit, obviously, with the IR. Hopefully he comes back soon and is good again. But Achane's nice. Bill is nice. K9, good flex. I'm assuming Benson and Hampton are both in your IR. If Benson is on your bench but not your IR, I would honestly just drop Benson. Get rid of him. B-Rob, I don't know if you need B-Rob. I would consider dropping him. I know you like to have, I think you mentioned this before, the handcuff for McCaffrey, which is fair, but I'm just not really big in on B-Rob anymore. And then your tight ends, Juwan and Mason. I like it. I think both Juwan and Mason are startable going forward. So we've had 2 bad weeks in a row with Juwan. You might want to consider starting Mason. He's picking up some momentum. The only thing I can think of is on this team would be, if you think you can get anything for Benson, maybe you could get another tight end or another receiver, but I might even drop him. Yo, what up, Titan Style? What's up, Tanish? Cole, how we doing? What are your top 5 trade targets with solid volume at their position? I'll give 5 running backs because I've been mostly looking at the running back data. So I'll give 5 running backs that I think are trade targets that have solid volume and do a lot with it. Obviously, number 1, Bill. Ja'Cory, Krosky, Merritt. So Bill's a trade target. Then, yeah, LOL on the wrong account. Yeah, it's so funny. I called it. I knew it. I'll give you some wide receivers. I think I'd mentioned a little bit, but trade targets with solid volume at the position. I like, so, touches per game from the running backs. Javonte Williams is getting 19 touches per game, but everyone knows it. So you're going to have to give like a king's ransom to get Javonte Williams. If you can get him for what you think is reasonable, I think it'd be good. Another player, Kyron Williams, we just saw his big week. So you're kind of now buying high again on him, but I think Kyron is going to be fine going forward and can still pay off. He's getting 19 and a half touches per game. That's a really good number. Him and Javonte are both above 19 touches per game. Josh Jacobs, a huge, huge trade target for me, but he's expensive. He's getting 22 and a half touches per game. Quinshon Judkins getting 20.3 touches per game. I like Judkins as well. I think Jacobs is a whole tier above, but I like Quinshon Judkins. And then last but not least, let me throw in a buy low on Jordan Mason. He's averaging 15.6 touches per game. He's got 3 touchdowns. He's got 78 total touches. I think there's better weeks ahead. He's already had a big week. He put up 23.6 fantasy points, his best scoring week. He's had some down weeks. Even with potentially Aaron Jones coming back in the near term, I still think Jordan Mason can smash the rest of the season. So you're not going to face the Bills every week. I would get Jordan Mason. I think he's a decent buy low because I think he gets a good amount of volume and he's very efficient. Guys that are high volume that I'm not excited about, J.K. Dobbins. I think he just doesn't have a high ceiling. Saquon, I think you could try to buy low on him potentially. That's another one. But people, they know who he is. He's Saquon Barkley. And this is the last week to buy Saquon. He's going to go off Thursday night against the Giants. We know that. He's going to go hard. Breece Hall could be a buy low. He just hasn't had any touchdowns yet, but he's averaging 16.6 touches per game. So guys that I don't like, Jalen Warren, he gets 18 touches a game, but he's got to come back and be healthy, and now he's going to compete with Ken Gainwell. DeAndre Swift, I don't like. He has 17 touches per game. Tony Pollard and Kamara are both at 18 touches per game. I don't like either one of them. I would sell. Chase Brown at 16 and a half touches per game. He's the ultimate sell low. Just get him off your roster. Do I think Higgins is a good trade target now with Flacco? No. What would you give up for him? No. I think he's low-end flex replacement level. Without Joe Burrow, it's just too hard to know. And it's not just the QB situation. It's the offensive line, and that's not going to change. So I wouldn't give up. I would not give up a lot. I would try to trade another, if you're going to give up something like a tight end too, or a flex running back to try to get T. And I don't know if he's a trade target, honestly. I think the Bengals might be a slight avoid. Yeah, that's so funny, Splash Zone. I do the same thing sometimes. I have other YouTube accounts for children. Trun Force needs 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. DK, Chris Olave, Devonta Smith, Rashad White, Jalen Warren, Terry McLaurin if he plays. Let's assume McLaurin doesn't play. For 2 wide receivers, I'm going to go with Olave and DK. Close for Devonta Smith, but give me Olave and DK. And then for the flex, let's throw in Rashad White. Start Jacobs or Caleb this week. I'm confused by that. Josh Jacobs or Caleb. Who's Caleb? What am I forgetting? If it's super flex, start Josh Jacobs or Caleb Williams in your super flex. I would typically always start a QB in my super flex. But if you're flexing Josh Jacobs, I mean, that's like, you should just be starting him in your lineup. Am I crazy? Well, who's Jacobs? Yo, what up, White Buffalo? Yo, George Play 01. How we doing? I'm making my way down. Look, good to see you all. Thanks for being here. Make sure you guys slap that like button, and I'll get through everyone's question, no doubt. We got JT here. He's 2-3. He needs some help. Non-PPR. Which side? Kamara, Ladd, and Zay for Bucky, Jameson, and Chase Brown. Oh, God, I hate both of these sides. Am I giving up on Kamara and Ladd too early? I think you're giving up on Ladd too early. I don't think you're giving up on Kamara too early. Kind of, if you've been hearing me, we've been talking a lot about Kamara tonight. If you've been hearing about Kamara, he's averaging like 0.5 fantasy points per touch. It couldn't be much worse. He's still getting a lot of work, but as soon as Kendre Miller starts to eat more into that workload and the touchdowns aren't there, Ladd's still in a good offense attached to Justin Herbert. Herbert, 31 touchdowns, passing as a rookie, set the record. He's thrown for over 5,000 passing yards in a season before. Zay Flowers with Lamar back is going to be nice. But Bucky, Jameson, and Chase Brown, I want the best player in the trade. That's Bucky Irving. So can you make the trade, different? Can you just give up like Kamara and Zay for Bucky? And that's it? I would do that. I think I would definitely do that. Kamara and Zay in standard for just Bucky. I would try to keep Ladd. Have some faith. Jameson Williams is fine. I don't really want Chase Brown. I wouldn't be trading for him. Splash Zone. Yeah, same question on account. Yeah. Yes, it was a child's account. Yes, sir. Yeah, this is the Fantasy Football Garage. This is not Paw Patrol. This is not Baby Shark. This is not none of the above. My favorite show that I watch with my kids currently, it's actually on Netflix. It's called The Creature Cases. If you have young kids, ages 2 to probably 7, I think they would like it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty sharp stuff. It's not brain rot. It's actually it's an animal encyclopedia disguised as a kid show. And actually it's made by Netflix, and the production quality is top notch. And I think the subject matter is really, really solid, and it's very PG, very, very rated G. It's very good. I love like nature documentaries, animal encyclopedia type stuff. Like that's right up my alley. So I will preferentially watch Creature Cases on Netflix with my daughter, who's 3, over freaking Baby Shark or even Paw Patrol, which is nonsense. In Creature Cases, we learn about animals and their environment and their habitats, and it's not bad. Highly recommend if you have kiddos out there. Cole Edgar said, little plus EV kid show conversation. Cole wants to know, do you have Breece Hall worth more than Dobbins and Pittman? I don't know about Pittman. I do. This is tough. Breece Hall versus Dobbins. I think what it comes down to for me is the ceiling. And I think Breece Hall's ceiling can be higher. I think he has less competition for touches. So they're super comparable. Breece Hall has 83 touches. J.K. Dobbins has 83 touches. Breece Hall has less fantasy points. He's been averaging 0.68 fantasy points per touch. Dobbins is at 0.84. Dobbins has 4 touchdowns, though, and Breece has 0. Breece's highest scoring week was 15.5. Dobbins was 15. Breece is averaging 11.3 fantasy points per game. Dobbins at 13.9. And neither of them have scored more than 17 fantasy points in a given week. So I like to think Dobbins' ceiling is higher. I think he can do it. He's been doing it with yardage and no touchdowns. If he gets a few more touchdowns, I think I want Breece. So I'm Breece ahead of Dobbins from here on out, but it's very close. And then Pittman, I think, how do I feel about Pittman? He's fine. He's averaging 12.9 fantasy points per game, so he's below both of these guys in my mind. He's had some nice touchdown luck. He's got 4 touchdowns. The Colts are a good team. So I would rank them like this rest of season. And it's essentially Breece Hall first, then Dobbins, then Pittman. But you can make a case even for maybe Pittman over Dobbins, maybe having a higher weekly ceiling. Good question, Cole. Thanks for being here, man. Tanish says, would you pick up Haskins or Vidal? The more I look at tape, Vidal looks way more explosive. You know, we're not going to know until we know. I'm a slight lean to Haskins. Harbaugh coached at Michigan. Haskins played at Michigan when Harbaugh was there. A little bit of a narrative, a little bit of a history. I think when Hampton went down in the third quarter, Haskins came in first, got the first run. They both got similar amount of touches in playing time, I think, is what I saw. So I'm going to lean Haskins over Vidal, but I don't have much to go off of. Neither of these guys have much of a history, and they're both kind of, just fine. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers bring in another running back. So be on the lookout for that as well. So don't overspend on your fab for Haskins or Vidal, but I think they're speculative ads. Yo, what's up, Billy GMGM? We got Chom Payne in here. How we doing, brother? We got Paulino in here. What's up, my friend? Good to see you. Good to see you. Yes, and then Cole was saying Chargers just signed Naheem Hines, didn't they? He did. He was with them during the offseason too, and so he can maybe have a small role. I wouldn't be surprised if they bring in someone else too. If Hampton's going to be, he's on the IR, he's going to miss at least 4 weeks. They could be bringing in more people. Definitely. All right, let me scroll back up and start to make my way down through the questions for week 6. We're doing a lot of waivers, rest of season ideas, all that kind of stuff. If you're new here, make sure you've hit the like, subscribe to the channel, come say what up in the chat. Follow me on Twitter at FFB Garage. And hit that like button. Vote in the poll too. Vote in the poll if you haven't already voted. I'm going to close it soon. Thanks for being here. Hope you guys are having a great Tuesday night. And hope you're looking forward to a fun matchup on Thursday. Saquon Barkley revenge game playing at the New York Giants. Titan Style says he traded George Pickens and Charbonnet for Jamar Chase and Ridley. Did he screw up? No, this is fine. I think Charbonnet is a low end flex. I think Ridley's kind of a low end flex. I think George Pickens and you get Jamar Chase is totally fine. Going forward when CeeDee Lamb comes back, do I think George Pickens outscores Jamar Chase consistently? Probably not. I think it's close. We like what we've been seeing from George Pickens, especially lately, but that can change with CeeDee Lamb back, and then maybe Flacco is good for Jamar Chase, these underneath dump off passes. So I'm cool with it. How we doing, George plays? Hey man, who should I pick up from the waiver wire? Tyrone Tracy? Yuck. Haskins? Or Vidal? I think Haskins or Vidal has the most utility in the next 4 weeks until Hampton comes back. And Hampton could even miss more time than that. He doesn't have to come back just after 4 weeks. The Chargers have a week 12 bye. And so 6, 7, 8, 9. What if they just say, you know what, we're going to keep him out week 10 and then he's back for week 11, then he's on a bye in week 12. That'd be kind of tough on the Hampton owners. So maybe you get a lot of work out of Haskins or Vidal. With Tyrone Tracy, he wasn't good before he was injured, and he's lost the job to Scadaboo, and Scadaboo's good. So I don't think Tracy's really – I think you can leave Tracy on the waiver wire. I think he has some name recognition from last season, but I think he's a very, very low-end flex. I think Haskins or Vidal will actually get more work and more run for the Chargers, who might even be a better team than the Giants as well. But the Giants have had some decent scoring weeks, and we like Dart just fine. Top 3, yeah, and Demo. There we go for DT Pac-Man. Able to trade away Dobbins and Lions defense for Javonte last week. That is sick. That is a nice trade. Congratulations on that one. That's a very nice upgrade. It's exactly what we want to do. We want to consolidate our team upwards to the better players that can make a difference. There's only so many limited number of players that really make a difference in fantasy year in and year out. And Javonte Williams is a difference maker. Is Dobbins a difference maker? I don't think so. I think he is replacement level RB2 with not a big ceiling. Javonte's crushing. Tonish wants to know ETN. Yeah, I think ETN is a trade candidate. I think he's someone you might want to go after. He's got that nice volume. He's averaging 17 touches per game, 3 touchdowns. Doesn't have the highest high ceiling. And we're also expecting Bashal Tootin to come on strong the rest of the season. But they really trust ETN, and they are. He's healthy. They're giving him a lot of touches. So he's holding off Tootin for the meanwhile, but we'll see. Yo, White Buffalo, good to see you, my man. Hope you're doing good. 4-1, very nice. 10 team, half point PPR, $200 buy-in. I like it. Mahomes and Knicks. Obviously, you're going to roll with Mahomes by week 10, and then you'll be good for a while. Knicks by week 9, if I'm not mistaken. No, 12 by week 12. Running backs, Bijan, Gibbs. Oh, love it. Scattaboo, love it. Sharbs, Warren, Haskins, okay. So the waiver ran early. That's nice. Wide receivers, Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd, Rice, Addison, Olave. So Addison and Olave and Brian Thomas Jr. can carry you over until Rice gets back. I think you're good there. So starting, 2 of BTJ, Ladd, or Olave until Rice gets back. And Addison. You got really good options. Your wide receivers are actually very solid. As soon as Rice comes back, even better. McBride, obviously great. Aubrey, great. Streaming defenses. Yeah, 3 times champ. I like it. It's a good team. Definitely no advice needed there. Bo Nix, he's all right. And then Charbonnet has some contingent upside. I'll give him that. I'm not seeing a lot out of Charbonnet so far this season. Let me just scroll down. Charbonnet is averaging 0.67 fantasy points per touch. He's got 51 touches. Compare that to a guy like Kareem Hunt, 0.85 fantasy points per touch on 49 touches. So Kareem Hunt, put up 18 points last week. Charbonnet's highest score is 11.4. So to me, Charbonnet is pretty replaceable. But you can't complain about this team. Very solid team. Tanish said, so should I start Zay, Devontae, or T? I'm probably leaning Zay if we think Lamar Jackson's playing. Against the Rams this week could be a fun matchup. Devonta on Thursday, I see that being more of a run-heavy game from the Eagles, but keep an eye on if Barkley is actually injured or plays. And then T. Higgins against Green Bay, I think, is not a great matchup. We saw Dallas put up some numbers against Green Bay, but I'm benching T everywhere I can. Oh, Love or Caleb. Yeah, Love or Caleb for D2 Pac-Man. I think we roll with Caleb. He's kind of on fire, right? I think we roll with Caleb. Caleb this week is going up against the Commanders on Monday Night Football. Should be a shootout, a nice high-scoring game. Versus Love playing Cincinnati. You can definitely take advantage of them, but that might just be the game script where the Packers don't have to pass the ball a whole lot. They just run the ball. It could be a Josh Jacobs game for sure. Okay, saying, do you think Jimmy Horn will get more playing time? If so, I think so. The coaches like him. They talk about him often. So I've been hearing regarding Jimmy Horn that Dave Canales has been talking about him for a couple of weeks now, here and there. We'll keep bringing Jimmy Horn Jr. along, asking him to execute the plan and to be detailed. We'll tell you there are a couple things he needs to clean up. So that's not incredible, but it's fine. This is Dave Canales, head coach. He played full speed, whether it was blocking in the run game, being used on jet sweeps, or in the pass game. The thing with, and then earlier in the week, Dave Canales had said Jimmy Horn Jr. will definitely be a part of our rotation this week. This is before the game. We're counting on him to play roles when he gets in there. I think the thing is, though, like they're expecting Coker to come back. So Horn is interesting, but yeah, he made some plays against the Dolphins. I think when Jalen Coker gets back, he's the guy we want to stash. Billy, hope you're doing great, man. Good to see you. I'm a little behind, but I'll catch up. Yo, Champagne, how we doing? I dropped Ramondre before the Gibson injury. Quite thin at backup running backs. Only Swift. Ooh, Isaiah Davis. Rashard Smith, interesting. And Mixon. I mean, I don't even know if Mixon plays this year, but got to hold out hope if you have an IR spot, especially. Should I spend a decent amount of fab to get Ramondre back? Honestly, yes. Let me know if you have any better options in your waiver wire for running backs. Could you sneak in and get a Gainwell for cheap? I like Kenneth Gainwell. I like Kenneth Gainwell more than Ramondre going forward, probably, or just as much. But, Ramondre is a flexible running back going forward. He's going to have some low weeks, but he's had some nice high weeks. He's getting 0.86 fantasy points per touch. That's not bad. Gainwell's at 0.97 fantasy points per touch. Gainwell, 48 touches. Ramondre, only 51. Total fantasy points, Ramondre's had 43.8. Gainwell has had 46.4. So Gainwell, to me, is a sneaky pickup that might be available for you. But I would want to get Ramondre back. But who else can you get on your waiver wire? Kid Show, Rec, much appreciated, my man. My daughter's 3. I'll check out Creature Cases. Yeah, it's cool. It's honestly, it's kind of a banger. It's a pretty good one. It's smart. It's funny. It's talking animals, but good messaging. It's not creepy. It's not weird. It's a good one. Champagne wants to know, should I drop Ertz for Likely with the Andrews trade rumors or drop him for... No, I would keep Ertz. Ertz has scored a touchdown in every single game that he's played with Jaden Daniels this season. Let's roll with Ertz. I like what you're thinking about, though. You're thinking about Mason Taylor. You're thinking about Theo Johnson. Think about Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, way better passer than Justin Fields. A way better passer than Jackson Dart. Let's stay connected to that. So let's roll with Ertz. Always good to see you, Paulino. How we doing? Champagne. Do you think Breece Hall is getting traded? I don't think so. I haven't really heard that. And they need him. Should I drop Ao Manor for Coleman, Mooney, Franklin, or Horton? Yes, I would drop Ao Manor for every single one of these players. I would rank them in my mind going forward. It's Coleman first, then Mooney, then Horton, then Franklin, then Ao Manor. I think Coleman's ceiling can be pretty good. I think he had a touchdown last week, but he didn't have a whole lot of yards, right? But it's the Bills, it's Josh Allen. Titan Style says his 10-man, half PPR, 2 flex, not tight end. I have Dak, Ladd, Chase. So Jamar Chase, Saquon, Etienne, Ridley, Bowers, Ramondre, Slayton. Yeah, question mark. Wide receiver 1 for the Giants. I think Wandale is in the meantime, and also Theo Johnson is their number 1 target, and they're kind of using him a lot. Slayton, I'm not super high on. I've never been a big fan in the last couple of years. He hadn't really done a whole lot, but he's very popular with the fantasy community. JMO, Dobbs, Coker, Benson, and IR. Yeah, Coker and Benson. Any moves you recommend? I would say see if you can consolidate upwards and get a better wide receiver. I love that you have Saquon and Etienne and Bowers. I think Ladd is good to hold on to. Don't sell low on him. See if you could trade either Dobbs or Ridley or JMO, and maybe even 2 of those guys together, and get a stronger either another running back. I'm trying to think, because I don't know if someone's going to want a 2-for-1 at wide receiver. It just didn't make sense. But if you can, it might be a time. If you can get a lot for Bowers, it might be a time to sell off of Bowers and get a lot for him, and for a nice wide receiver. He's just kind of injured, but when that's the only reason why. He's had a lot of name value. I'm trying to think who else you could move. I think you've got a lot of wide receiver threes like Ridley or JMO or Dobbs, and then Coker when he's off IR. But you could use another wide receiver too, which Ridley was supposed to be. Maybe he still can be, but hasn't been. Same thing with Ladd. Well, so you're not far off. Ladd and Chase, you're not far off. Saquon Etienne, I guess you're flexing Ridley and Bowers or Ramondre or JMO. Yeah, I would just maybe if you can slightly consolidate upwards to improve your flex, Titan. Yeah, keep Ertz. Excuse me. DT Pacman says, would you drop JMO and pick up Thornton? I don't want to. I think it's getting close, though. I've been following Tyquan Thornton very closely. The dude has been getting there. He had 3 touchdowns out of the last 4 weeks. And then without the touchdown this week, he just puts up a ton of yards, and he's doing it on very few plays. So I don't think the ceiling for Tyquan Thornton is as high as the ceiling for JMO, but he's been much more consistent lately. So it's a good question. It's like secretly Thornton is better than JMO, but we're still holding on to hope for JMO. Yeah, what's up, Alex G? How we doing tonight? Yeah, Naheem Hines. Okay, we're back there. John says, John Abruzzo, how we doing? Trade Jacoby and Mahomes for Lamar. I'm in. I want Lamar Jackson. Mahomes is doing great. Jacoby Myers is replaceable, but projects well every week. I like Lamar. Hassan Haskin runs a 4.7. So does I think Cam Scatterby runs a 4.7. Keenan Allen runs a 4.7 in his heyday. Definitely slower now. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah. And at least he's big. Yeah. I don't think Vidal's much faster. I think I just had it up. No, I just closed out of it. I thought I had it up. But I think Vidal's similarly pretty slow. Champagne says, do you think Swift is going to lose his role? I don't think so because the coaches talk him up well. Like Ben Johnson's been talking him up well. They're still giving him a lot of touches. He's averaging 17 touches per game. He's not doing a whole lot with them. He's kind of lucky he's hit some touchdowns. He's got 2 touchdowns. He's averaging 11 fantasy points per game. His highest scoring week was 14. So he's like a low floor, low ceiling play right now. But the Bears are a good team and they have a good offensive line. So it could get better. He could luck into a lot of touchdowns because he's getting so many opportunities. So I think that's the path forward. I don't think Monangai is a huge threat at the moment for DeAndre Swift, and they're not really bringing anyone else in. Any trade rumor that they might get Kamara, I think is completely speculative. And even if they brought Kamara in, DeAndre Swift is actually playing better per touch than Kamara right now. The Flacco trade for Jamar Chase owner, I think it has to be seen as an improvement. Splashdown wants to know 6-player league, very small. Do I start Etienne, Judkins, or Quentin Johnston? I would probably go with Judkins or Quentin Johnston. Or it's hard. I'm like, or Etienne. No, I'm gonna stick with I'm gonna say, well, let me look at the matchups for this week, right? So Etienne is playing at home against Seattle. That's a terrible matchup. The Seattle defense, so stingy, really good. They're solid against the run. Judkins and the Browns against Pittsburgh, that's a good matchup. That's a fine matchup. Quentin Johnston and the Chargers at Miami, that's probably the best matchup. So I think it's really close to me between Quinshon Judkins and Quentin Johnston. I would say kind of like maybe try to take advantage of the Miami Dolphins and just keep it rolling with Quentin Johnston, but Quinshon Judkins also a good start. Captain Clutch says he had some tight end depth and traded Kraft and Brian Thomas Jr. for Debo and Woody. Thoughts? Needed some wide receiver depth. Yeah, traded Kraft and Brian Thomas Jr. for Debo. So you get the best player in the trade here is currently Debo. And then I think Woody, we had a disappointing week 5. We had a great week 4. I think there's more good weeks ahead. So Kraft is a pretty nice piece. But if you've got a lot of depth at tight end and it's a replacement for you, then I think this is fine. Debo's been doing better than Brian Thomas. 1 sec. I'm going to let the dog out real quick. I'll be right back in 10 seconds. Titan Style wants to know, will you see my team above this? I also have Woody. I think I saw. Tonish says, my thought process for Vidal over Haskins is that when Hampton was healthy, he couldn't get anything going in between the tackles and on the goal line due to their O-line, which is Haskins' skill set. That's a good point. Yeah, it could just be it could just be an avoid situation going forward. If Hampton is so much more talented than both Haskins and Vidal, which we believe he is, and they've got the injuries to Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, this could be an avoid run game going forward. The Chargers might start just passing it a ton, and then Quentin Johnston and Ladd McConkey continue, going forward are the plays. Some Keenan Allen. Hampton's good sauce game from outside the tackles and passing game, which is Vidal's skill set. I could see it. Was thinking of offering the Bucky owner Bowers and Ramondre or Benson. Yeah, I mean, Bowers is a little hurt. Bucky's a little hurt. I think Ramondre and Benson are replaceable flex plays. So if you're getting Bucky Irving for Bowers at this point in the year, I think I like that. Yo, Alex G, how we doing? 10 team, full PPR, 5-0. Nice. Very nice. QBs May, love it. And Mayfield, solid. Running backs, Jacobs, love it. Dowdle, let's go. Chase Brown, maybe try to sell low. Marks, love it. Benson, if you have an IR spot, good. If not, could move on from him. Warren, I think also kind of, low end flex. So you have Chase Brown, Benson, and Warren, all very low end flexes, but you have Jacobs and Dowdle. You just smashed on Dowdle. And then you have Marks, who can be good for you too. Hope you started him in that 1 week in week 4. Wide receivers, Chase, Olave. Could get better for Chase with Flacco. Olave's good. McMillan, good. We like that looking going forward. We need him to score a touchdown, though, obviously. Pearsall, good. Just need to get healthy. Devonta Smith, up and down. Golden, fun, good stash. Tight end, Bowers. Advice? Maybe because we don't know what happens with Dowdle going forward when Chuba Hubbard is fully healthy, but we hope that he still has some good value. I like Marks going forward. If you can consolidate one of your extra wide receivers, like maybe a Smith or a Pearsall plus a Warren or a Chase Brown, and just get one better flex player, whether it's a better running back or a better wide receiver, I think I would do that. Speaking of Teteroy McMillan, I'm going to let my dog outside this time. She has to go out. Here's the Teteroy McMillan clip. I'll be right back to answer more questions. Smash that like button. All right. All right. All right. What's up, Peppers? How we doing, my friend Zim Molik, James, and Hartman? Yo, what up, Hartman? Hartman, we doing your channel tomorrow night, or we doing Who Hames? Let me know. Get that StreamYard link out. Hope you're doing good, Hartman. Good to see you, my friend. Just letting the dog out for a second. Okay. We just got the Alex G's question. Next up is LK. Start Jake Ferguson or Njoku next game? Got to be Jake Ferguson, right? It's obvious. Gabriel likes his tight ends with Ferg is Mr. Reliable in the end zone. Yeah, got to be Ferguson, right? Tight end one on the season. Keep JMO because Rashi is back. That's true too. Okay, Peppers, genius. Thornton, he's been great. He's maintained a role even with Worthy back, but it's going to continue to diminish with Rashi back soon enough. So that makes sense. Alex G saying, I'm looking at trading Chase Brown and Devonta Smith for Marion Hampton as a keeper league. What do you think? Dude, I freaking love that. I'm worried, Hampton's going to be out for 4 weeks, but you're 5-0. You can float it. You've got some good depth. I don't think you're going to need Chase Brown's going to do nothing for you. Smith might get a start or two in the meantime, but you've got hopefully Pearsall back. At least you could go Chase, Olave, McMillan, and then maybe Golden becomes relevant. So I think you have enough depth and good players that getting Amari and Hampton for the playoff stretch, which you're already geared for, you're going to the playoffs. So let's prepare for it. You're going to be starting Josh Jacobs and Amari and Hampton during your playoff run. Dowdle could be splitting work again. Titan South says question mark. I think was thinking of offering. Okay, I got that one. Maybe it was the other question you had. I wasn't exactly sure. Oh, now I'm way off. Let me scroll. There we go. I'm going to close the door now. The dog opened it back up. 1 second. 1 second. I'm going to close the door. I'll be right back. The doll had much better combine numbers than Haskins. Okay. Would you trade Judkins and Wilson for CD and Henderson? That's tough, Kenny. Kenny Satrill. How we doing tonight? Thanks for being here. That's a tough one. Judkins and Wilson are two really nice pieces. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb's the best player in the deal. If CD comes back and is that guy we expect him to be, I want the best player in the trade. I want the best player overall. So Judkins has been nice lately, but CD's better. Garrett Wilson's been good too. Henderson, we're still waiting for him to have his big week. I think it's fair. I think getting CD and Henderson for Judkins and Wilson is fair. If you're trying to target CD and you want that upgrade, I think you could do that. Yeah. Player profiler. I mean, I was Tanish. I think Vidal is a little bit more interesting from an athletic perspective, but it's just about the opportunity. They're both super replacement level running backs. Whoever gets the opportunity to touches is going to, be the one you want for fantasy. Judkins had that huge run negated by the penalty, right? Yeah, I forget who caused the penalty. Was it an Isaiah Bond hold? I don't remember. But I did remember it happening. I remember the thought of it happening. McBride or Kelsey rest of season? Gotta be McBride, but Kelsey's been fine, right? I'm bummed. I benched Kelsey in week 5 to start Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson did nothing. Kelsey had the touchdown. It was a pick play, but still. Yo, yo, yo. Hartman. Tonish says, very big Vidal guy. Sorry. No, it's good. It's good. We got to balance it out. I had Vidal in my dynasty league, and then I dropped him right before the season started. And he's still available. But Haskins is owned. But I could see either one being fine. Zamolik says, do I trade Jamar? Oh, I love the dog picture too. Very cute. Do I trade Jamar and Swift for CD and Travion Henderson? Yes. Yeah, I'm in on that. I want CD over Jamar rest of season, and I want Henderson because Swift is so replacement level. I mean, maybe Swift being on the Bears and they're doing well, good offensive line, he could just get enough touches and fall into some more touchdowns. But I think Henderson's more exciting. So I think it's CD and Hendy for me. James says, Njoku or Waller this week? Thanks. The Browns going up against Pittsburgh is a fun matchup. Low scoring, but should be fine. I think Njoku in that one could be good, but at the same time, Waller against Los Angeles seems like another fun matchup. I don't know. I think it's close. Kind of same tier for me. So I'm going to go slightly into Waller. He's been on a roll, right? Njoku's good, though. Njoku's very good. I think who hames his stream. Okay, we'll figure that out. Yo, what's up, Game Face? What kind of dog do I have? I have an English Springer Spaniel, and she's an old girl. So I'll show you all a pic. I've got a million pictures of my dog. She's an old girl, though. She's about to have a birthday, and I'm taking her to the vet this Friday. She's getting a little checkup, but she's hanging in. She's doing all right. Let me find weird. Did I take a picture? I thought I had a picture. We were at the beach this weekend. Maybe I just didn't take that picture. Oh, I scrolled too far. Okay, doggo pic time. There's so many of us who have dog profile pictures too. It's kind of hilarious. Let me find a good picture. This is her in the backyard like this week. So this is her. Doggo. She's sweet. Just a fluffy dog. What about you, Game Face? Do you have a dog? Dustin Wells. Yo, what up? What's up, man? How much fab are you giving up for Green Bay defense? I would want them. I mean, their schedule, I'm pulling it up right now. I think I would want Green Bay defense. I'm looking at their schedule just to confirm. They have the Bengals, the Cardinals, the Steelers, the Panthers, the Eagles, the Giants, the Vikings, Lions. That's the only bad matchup. Bears seems fine. Broncos, Bears again, Ravens, Vikings. You definitely can start them against the Bengals, the Cardinals, and the Steelers and the Panthers with some conviction. So for the next 4 weeks, they're probably one of the best defenses. So I don't know. My leagues where I have fab, the only one that has defenses is the high stakes team that Hartman and I, shout out to Hartman, co-manage. But we aren't putting a bid in this week for the Packers defense. I don't think they're available, but I would think whatever you're comfortable with, 5, 6, 7%, if you think you can get it for that. I don't know if you think it'd go for more. Fab is always so discretionary to like the league and what people have been bidding recently. So I would look at the most recent bids, especially those on other defenses, and kind of like feel it out. And then, Hartman, I was going to say, if you check our bid groups on our Big Gorilla team, I put in a few for kicker to replace our injured Indianapolis kicker. I put in some for tight end that we might want to replace Trimble while Bowers is out or for the bye week coming up. And then who else did I do? I did some other small ones, but just to check those out. if you're cool with them. And I don't think I'd change the bid amounts. I kind of just like lowballed them all. Oh, I think it was a defense. Was it defense? I'd have to look. I mean, I have it right here. I went to add kickers, Josh Downs, Jake Tongas, and then actually no, Green Bay defense. I need to up that bid. Okay, this is perfect. Hartman, we'll have to connect on this, but right now I have placeholders for $1 bids for all of our stuff, but like we'll have to figure out. I totally forgot. Yeah, I am trying to bid to get Green Bay defense in our FFPC high stakes. So yeah. And then if we don't get the Green Bay defense, I actually want the Chicago defense. Hey, thanks for being here, Alex G. Good to see you, man. Dustin says, would you pick up Coker and Jennings to stash? Yes, I have Coker in 2 of my IR spots right now in different leagues. I'm stashing, and then Jennings. I don't. He's just on my bench, but I'm holding him. Splash zone. I'm adding Torrey Horton in the 14-player league. Is that a good pickup? Yes. Yeah, I like Torrey Horton in 12-team leagues as a deep bench stash guy. So in 14-player, love it. Yeah, what's up, Hecky? James Bond, how we doing? James Hernandez, yo, what up? Hartman says, if we had a resurrection style contest for rest of season, where does Judkins go? That's a great question because I was just gonna look at it's really like the last 3 weeks for him that you want to like look at how he's done over the last 3 weeks, and I'm pulling it up. Over the last 3 weeks, Judkins is the RB8 with 16 fantasy points per week. And then over the last 2 weeks, Judkins is the RB8 with 16 fantasy points per week. So did that actually refresh or did I think it just is what it is. It looks like it refreshed. Yeah. So, I mean, he's top 10 or 12 easily. I would think rest of season. So my thought would be like probably the height of where we were taking Amarian Hampton to Travion Henderson range. Judkins would be going up in the top of that range with them. And then knowing Hampton's out, like obviously we'd have him ahead. But if Hampton wasn't out, it would still be, for me, it'd be pretty close between Hampton and Judkins, right? What do you think? What do you think, Hartman? It was Fannin on the hold. That's right. I knew it was a rookie. I couldn't remember though. Nice. James Hernandez says Etienne, Dobbins, or Montgomery this week. I'm slightly thinking just Montgomery is my favorite of those 3. Etienne has a really bad matchup against the Seattle defense, although he is at home. It's a home game for Jacksonville, but it's a Seattle defense that's stingy against the run. Dobbins, he's playing in London at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium Sunday morning early against the Jets. That's a fine matchup for Dobbins, but I don't think he has a great ceiling. I think he's more of like a floor play guy, a floor flex play. But we'll see. Maybe he can prove me wrong finally. Montgomery and the Lions are playing at Kansas City on Sunday Night Football. I think that could be a fun one. Kansas City defense, though, is actually very good against the run in general. So probably Dobbins is the best matchup, but I would still be interested in Montgomery. It's tough. And then Etienne just has a tough matchup. These are 3 good options for the flex, but I think if we're looking solely based on matchups, it's probably a slightly into Dobbins. If we're going for ceiling, I think it's Montgomery. Sin Bowers and Mondre Benson for Rice. Yeah, I would do that. I think I would do that. Titan style. Also, should I be worried about Woody? I mean, we're worried because the Texans CJ Stroud had a 4 passing touchdown game. They were clearly winning. I thought in a winning game script, they might, give the ball to Woody Moore, but they actually gave the ball to the second teamers. Damian Pierce and Davis Mills played the fourth quarter. So I guess when the Texans are playing from behind, they'll use Woody Marks even more in like those passing downs. So I think we're holding on Woody Marks, obviously. I think we want to start to see more of the split of the work with him and Chubb and how Woody Marks is used. But I'm pretty confident still that Woody Marks is a really good flex play going forward with some high-end RB2 upside. James Bond says, sorry for the repetitive question, but Haskins or Vidal, and is it worth the risk for future trade bait since I don't really need a running back? I don't know if it's really worth the risk if you don't have a player on your team that you're ready to give up on. I was also making this decision in my home league where it's like I'd be dropping my third QB, but it's super flex. So it's kind of hard to drop your third QB, but it's for me, it's Spencer Rattler. So it's not too bad. So yeah, I think I'm slightly Haskins over Vidal just because of the Harbaugh and Haskins Michigan relationship, but I don't know how much trade bait or how much you'll be able to get for them, or if they're going to continue to split the work. Naheem Hines coming in, do they bring in another running back? So if you don't have a player that you want to drop, then it might not be worth it. At the same time, we just saw Rico Dowdle and Rachaad White and Kenneth Gainwell come in for injured starters and smash. So, but do I think Haskins and Vidal have that upside that those three have? Probably not. Hecky says, what do you think about Breece Hall? I want Breece Hall to get more touchdowns. He's getting a decent amount of opportunities, but Breece Hall is the one running back who has not scored this season that is averaging over, 10 points a game and has actually had some really nice games. So, I mean, I can scroll all the way down my list. The next running back who hasn't scored, who's played anywhere near the amount that Breece Hall has played, is like Trey Benson, who's now hurt. Who's the other one? Austin Eckler. No, not Austin. He didn't play much at all. Tyrone Tracy, who also has been hurt, hadn't scored. Jerome Ford hasn't scored. Who else? That's it. I mean, Breece Hall is the outlier. We need Breece Hall to score some touchdowns. I think he'll be good when he does. So rest of the season, I'm hopeful. Yo, what's up, B Growing Stuff? How we doing, brother? From blue to green live. Yo, what up? What up? Splash says, when you get 1K subs or something, you should make a Discord server. Last month. Hell yeah, brother. That's what we'll do. That'll be the 1,000. I thought about this the other day, and I've talked about it before, but I've been on Discord since 2016. We used to use it for the voice channel for gaming a little bit when I was still in school and stuff, and used to game more with the buddies. When we hit 1K subs, that'll be time for the Discord, because I think before then there's no real need. And I'm also not like criminally online. I'm not always online. So the amount that I'm on YouTube and Twitter is kind of enough. But I think Discord will be a good option. And I mostly hang out in the Discords that I'm in. I like, the Fantasy Dog Pound Discord that Pat has going on. I hang out there sometimes. I lurk around. I like I use the Coach Speak Index. So that's I'm mostly reading, but I'm in that Discord the most, but just reading. My high school friends, we have a Discord that I'm in, but that's obviously private, but that's the one I read also the most. I like Bindle's Discord. Shout out to Bindle's Brigade. You can get into Bindle's free Discord. Links in his socials to get there. Deposit Kingdom is a fun one. I like the Davis Maddock Discord. That's a premium one. Slappy Central, but it's fun. It's good stuff in there. We've got who else do I like Discord wise? Flannelverse. You can get into Neil's free Discord. The Fanspeak Discord. They just kind of restarted theirs up, and so You can check out the Fanspeak Discord there. BBG doesn't really use his. It's just kind of funny. Same thing, PPR Tyler. Who Hames has a Discord. You can get into Who Hames Discord. Who else? Nick Bach has a Discord, Winning the Flex. You can check those out. So, like, but these are all people that I interact with on Twitter and on YouTube and stuff. I'm hanging out in their Discords a little bit. I think that'll be our goal. 1,000 subs will pop off and we'll start up a Discord. Could be fun. Yeah, this is what I was thinking, Hartman, because we don't really need the tight end. In the kicker, we kind of can run through the options. So I think we keep the $1 on the tight end and the kicker in case we get them. Hopefully we do. And then on the wide receiver and defense, I think we do like a small amount on downs because we do need a flex until Rice gets back, and downs could be good. And then for the defense, it might be worth spending up just to see if we can get it because it could be nice going forward. I don't know, but we can talk more about it tomorrow too. Tonish said, would you trade T. Higgins for Trayvon Henderson? Yes. If I have a lot of wide receiver depth, yes, I would. From blue to green live. How we doing? Thanks for being here, my friend. Hope you're having a great Tuesday night. He says, what's your opinion in a dynasty league? I just traded Roma Dunze and Brock Bowers. Holy shit. I mean, Roma Dunze is worth a lot, and Brock Bowers is worth even more in dynasty. For Devon Achane, okay, I like where this is going. James Cook, I like that. And a first round pick for 26. I think that's fine. First round picks, future firsts are gold. Yeah, maybe you're rebuilding a little bit, or maybe you're just trying to move some pieces. Maybe you don't fully believe in Roma Dunze and the Bears. I think this seems fine to me. I'm not. Bindles, shout out to Bindles. He has a free Discord. The link to his socials is in my description. And if you go into his socials, you can get into his free Discord. He actually has a dynasty rankings Google sheet that you can find the link to in his dynasty rankings. And it's pretty up to date. And the way he tiers his dynasty players is like he'll say, okay, this player is worth 1 base first, or this player is worth 2 first, or this player is worth a half a first, or it's worth 2 seconds, and kind of he tiers all of his players by what their future value is worth. And so I found that's really useful for me because he's a very dynasty minded guy. He's in like 40 or 60 dynasty leagues. It's insane. I'm only in a handful of dynasty leagues, but I have been playing dynasty since 2019. But it helps me conceptualize these kind of trades where there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of expensive pieces. So check it out if you're interested. Free Discord, Bindles Brigade. You can find the link in his socials via the description below or on Twitter at Bindles90. Splash says, should I offer for Garrett Wilson first Bucky Irving or Kenneth Walker? I would try to move Ken Walker first. I think Bucky Irving has the higher ceiling and the higher floor than Ken Walker, but obviously he's hurt right now, so that kind of sucks. And Ken Walker, yeah, if you're trying to get Garrett Wilson, I think for Ken Walker is a good trade. For Bucky, it's close. They're pretty even, but I kind of lean Bucky, obviously, being worth more. B Growing Stuff says drop Lions D for Raiders D. I don't know. I don't have a good feel on that. The Raiders this week are going up against the Titans, so I see why you're saying that. But are they a good defense to have? Not sure. And then Lions are playing the Chiefs, so I think the Lions are a better defense, but this week at the Raiders against the Titans, it makes sense. So if you're kind of streaming defenses, this makes sense. Hey, appreciate it, James. Thanks for being here. Yo, what's up, JD, J, Hang, and how you guys doing tonight? B Growing wants to know, do we drop Juwan Johnson or Evan Ingram for Mason Taylor or Theo Johnson? I don't know. I think it's close. I probably would be open to dropping Evan Ingram for Mason Taylor or Theo Johnson. I think I would consider that, but I probably want to hold on to Juwan Johnson. Oh, Justin Fields taking the Brees touchdowns. This is true. This definitely can happen. The counter argument that people were saying during the summer too, though, was Justin Fields is going to open up the running lanes because he freezes the linebackers because of his ability to take off running. So, and this also I think has happened too. Najee didn't score a touchdown until week 8 last year, and he had to run for 25 and dive to the pylon to do it. It's true. Good observation. I mean, I think Brees Hall is getting enough work that just naturally the touchdowns will come. But you're right. There is a poaching aspect from Fields. Without Braylon Allen there, though, I think there's even more chance that they have to use Brees that much more. Yo, what's up, J Hang 20? Hi, trade London and Fields for Josh Allen and Bill. I think in a vacuum, yes. Yeah, I want Bill on my team. He's a really strong flex and RB2 going forward. Great ceiling. He's had a decent floor already this year. He's averaging 11.6 fantasy points per game. We just saw him go off for 26. He's averaging 1.21 fantasy points per touch. Already has 4 touchdowns, and he's a part of a really nice Commanders offense, good offensive line. Obviously, great quarterback play with Jay Daniels coming back in. And we want Josh Allen. Fields is pretty nice, but he could even get benched, it sounds like, which is kind of crazy. But he's better for fantasy than real life. Josh Allen, never going to get benched, always going to be potential MVP, candidate. And then London, I think, is nice coming back around in week 4. Slow start, but Bill versus London rest of season is close enough to me where an upgrade from Fields to Josh Allen, I think, is worth it, especially if you have other players you can replace London with, and it's not going to hurt too much at wide receiver. JD, how we doing? JD wants to know, start Waddle or Devontae Adams this week. I think Devontae Adams is always a good start. Always a good start. He's going against Baltimore and could destroy their secondary. So I want to start Devontae Adams, but at the same time, you have a good, decent matchup against the Chargers with Waddle, and Waddle's getting a ton of action with Tyreek Hill gone. So you have 2 great options. I would personally start Devontae Adams first, but if you can get both in your lineup, I would like that as well. I think that could definitely work for you. Blue to Green says, I'm in a win now team. Need more running backs. Oh, I see. Yeah, obviously, win now because if you're trading for running backs generally. So I get that too. And then your core is now Jacobs, Cook, Achane, and Carter. I like that. I like Jacobs, Cook, and Achane for trying to win this season. And then Carter too. We don't know how long Benson's going to be out. It could be out the 4 weeks, could be out more. So Carter actually can cover all your buys for Cook and Achane. Cook buy coming up soon next week, week 7. Achane in week 12. Yeah, I needed some running backs. Would you drop Marks or Ollie Gordon for Haskins or Vidal? I think I wouldn't drop Marks, but I would consider dropping Ollie Gordon for Haskins or Vidal if you were going to start them. If you don't think you're going to start Haskins or Vidal, I might just hold Ollie Gordon too, because we don't even know yet what the split will be between Haskins and Vidal. Maybe you get one and the other one hits. Maybe they both contribute, but neither one of them is flex worthy. So speculatively, Haskins or Vidal is only so interesting that I would slightly consider dropping Ollie Gordon for it, but at the same time, I'm not super excited if I don't start them, or if I have such depth on my team that I wouldn't have to start Haskins or Vidal, then it's what's the point of churning? But I mean, I was saying this earlier, we just saw Rashad White, Kenneth Gainwell, and Rico Dowdle come into a starting spot and completely smash. The difference is those guys are good and have been good in the past, and at least somewhat good and proven. We've never seen really anything out of Vidal or Haskins that get excited about. I think Vidal's done a little bit. I can't remember if Haskins has ever had a game where he's carried the ball that much, but yeah, what's up, Slapsky? El Pollo says, should I trade London for Rome? I would, yes. have Bijan, would rather not rely heavily on the Falcons offense. I think that's smart. Also prefer Rome's matchup this week as I'm 2-3. Thoughts? Yeah, I'm in on Rome over London rest of season. We've gotten to that point. Rome is the one you want. Yo, Slapsky, how we doing? Says pick one, Theo, Barner, or Tongas. I'm kind of in the Tongas camp. I'm really liking how the way they're using him, and he's been scoring touchdowns too. You could also argue Barner. The coaches have been talking him up a lot lately, and he's getting a lot of work and obviously getting the touchdowns lately too. So my rank would probably be Tongas, then Barner, then Theo. It's obviously close. Dart has been throwing to his tight ends a bunch, and then Neighbors is out. So Theo Johnson's kind of in a nice spot. But if I had to pick one just for this weekly matchup alone, I'm probably considering Tongas, which sounds crazy. Theo could be in a good matchup against Philadelphia, though, too. Philadelphia's been giving up a decent amount of yards, and that's a Thursday night game. So it's close. It's really close. These are all in the same group for me. They're all interesting. They all have like that upside. And they've all kind of had some touchdown success recently. But I like the 49ers. Tongas have been using him a ton. Kittle's not coming back this week and maybe not even next week. But if you're going for like, if you only need one the rest of the season, maybe it's just Theo or Barner. Ingram also there too. Yeah, I don't love Ingram as much. Keep Tootin or drop for Tracy or Haskins Verdal. I keep Tootin over all of those guys. I think Tootin is twice as good as Tracy. So even with the disappointing run out we've seen with Tracy not getting a lot of touches against the Chiefs, Tootin is still averaging 0.96 fantasy points per touch. He's got about 29 touches, 2 touchdowns. And he's already had a week where he had 14.4 fantasy points. Tracy is not usable. He averages 0.54 fantasy points per touch, so about half as many fantasy points per touch. Also on 30 touches, he has 0 touchdowns. His highest scoring week was 7.1. So Tracy, I don't think he's usable the rest of the season. I think he's just leave him on the waivers. Haskins and Vidal, mystery box, but I'd be really surprised if there was a clear workhorse running back getting even the amount of work that Michael Carter was getting in this scenario between Haskins and Vidal. Maybe they both just kind of split it. Maybe Naheem Hines split some of it. So I would be more surprised, but I think I wouldn't drop Tootin. That's kind of the line. I would not drop Tootin to take a risk on Haskins or Vidal. For the season, you have Juwan right now. Yeah, I like Juwan the best. And then for the rest of the season, I think Tongas is interesting. Juwan Johnson doesn't go on a bye until week 11. And by that point, Kittle might be back. So then I would probably think Theo. And then Barner's pretty close. From Blue says, curious what you'd grade my Dynasty Superflex team. Okay. Josh Allen, love it. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, Josh Allen, Jacobs, Cook, H.N. Carter, Jared Goff, very nice. Metcalf, Diggs, Mike Evans, Ridley, Waller, Kittle. I love it. I think I would maybe consider just in the future, win now and then try to invest in some young wide receivers from here on out after you win, after you go for that championship, because we don't know how much longer we're going to get from Diggs or Ridley where they're effective pieces. We're hoping that they can both be effective this season, right? That's the play. Metcalf's fine. And then we just don't know whose QB is going to be next year either. And then Mike Evans is awesome, but he's injured right now and he's getting older there too. So I would say, eventually you'll start to trade for some younger wide receivers just to stay afloat. But you're definitely got a good win now team. The Waller pickup is nice there too. Slopsky says in 12-man redraft, half point, 2 flex, and running back. Yeah, wide receiver, tight end. He's got May, Bijan, Gentile, Buka, JSN, Juwan Johnson, Bill, Dowdle. His bench is Fields, DeMercado, Tootin, Golden, Bourne, CD on the IR spot. Yeah. I would drop DeMercado for one of those other tight ends that you mentioned for sure. Titan says, "Who's my top waiver tonight? My list is Malik Washington, nice. Franklin, Tracy, I leave him on the waiver. Algier, leave him on the waiver. Although he has probably the most contingent upside if something were to happen to Bijan, but he's not having a good amount of standalone value right now on his own. Historically, he has had some, but it's just not there right now. Haskins, Taysom is interesting. Sean Tucker, Downs is interesting. Mims, no. There's Cup, if that's worth anything. Yeah, I think Cup is the best player available. So I would rank him Cooper Cup, then Josh Downs, then Malik Washington, then then Troy Franklin, probably then Taysom Hill, and then Algier, and then Haskins, and then the rest I would just leave them alone. Drop options are Dobbs. I would not drop Dobbs. Slayton, I would drop both Slayton and DeMercado. I don't think you need Slayton or DeMercado. I would rather have Malik Washington, Troy Franklin, and Cup and Downs, all of those guys over both of Slayton or DeMercado. And then Taysom and Algier would be kind of in the same. The roster for context. Yeah. I was saying I would probably drop DeMercado to get one of those tight ends. There's also Tootin, but you have ETN. Yeah. Tootin's a good stash. You have ETN. You might just leave Tootin on the waiver, but at some point he's going to smash and you're going to wish you had him, I kind of think. So, like, I would put Tootin after Cup and Downs, unless you just don't think you need to play Cup or Downs and you just want more of like the contingent upside with Tootin. And then Gainwell. Yeah, I like Gainwell too. I would put Gainwell ahead of Tootin right now. Ryle, how we doing? Thanks for stopping in. Do I trade Drake London and Jordan Mason for JCM and Josh Jacobs, or would I be getting fleeced? So I think Josh Jacobs is one of the big targets. You know, we want him in fantasy for sure. One of the highest floor, highest ceiling plays you can get. Bill is a very nice piece, but I don't think he's going to be Josh Jacobs going forward. I think he's going to be riskier, but still a good piece. So obviously we want, and you're getting both of them. I like both. They're both targets. Jordan Mason's great. I love Jordan Mason, but I think Bill going forward is probably a better play because the team is better. And then I want Josh Jacobs over London easy. So yes, I would trade Drake London and Jordan Mason for Bill and Josh Jacobs. I like that. You're not getting fleeced. Plus, Josh Jacobs is the best player in the trade. Was leaning Theo. Yeah, I think Theo makes a lot of sense. Dart's been targeting them a bunch. No, Slapsy, I don't think he's getting fleeced. I'm in on Bill. I'm definitely in on Bill. I mean, he's got 4 touchdowns. He's putting up big numbers. Josh Jacobs is the best player in this trade. I love Jordan Mason too, but Josh Jacobs is on a better team, more involved in the passing game, less competition for touches. And then Drake London's obviously good, but he hasn't been putting up huge numbers. I want the best player in the trade. It's Josh Jacobs, and then Bill's a nice piece for the flex. But if you're like so in that Drake London's going to have this, like, he's going to tear it up the rest of the season, then maybe you'd be worried about losing that wide receiver. Ezekiel says, is Tracy Jr. worth a pickup? I don't think so personally. Tracy Jr.'s only averaged 0.5 fantasy points per touch. It's Scadaboo's job now. Yeah, Taysom coming back. Kamara never getting in the end zone again. FML. Yeah, sad but true. Oh, read that wrong. He was trading 3 for 1. Oh, I'm going nuts. Do I trade Drake London, Jordan Mason, and JCM for Josh Jacobs? Oh, sorry, Ryle. I skimmed right past it. No, Slapsky is right. That's too much. I really want Josh Jacobs, but I'm not giving up Drake London and Jordan Mason and Bill just for Josh Jacobs. Um, I would counter that and say, I don't know, maybe just hold what you got. If you're trying to consolidate though, would I give would I give up Drake London and Bill to get Josh Jacobs? I don't know. I'd have to rethink how you do this trade, but yeah, don't do the 3-for-1. Usually we're trying to trade R3 to get one, but that's just too much. Or, try to make it a 2-for-1. Yeah. It's just too much. It's just too much. Josh Jacobs is very good, but that's just too many pieces. Yeah, what's up, Gian? How we doing? Is trading Gibbs for Jamar Chase, McLaurin, and Bucky worth it? I'd be getting the Chase side. Yeah, Slapsky's doing the Lord's work. Thank you, Slapsky. You know what? I don't want to get rid of Gibbs. I know it's Jamar Chase, but I don't want to get rid of Gibbs. McLaurin's injured. Bucky's injured. Jamar Chase is going to be playing with Joe Flacco. I don't know. What do you guys think? Assuming Bucky comes back sooner than later, does he still have the same role? Does Rashad White eat more into that role? McLaurin is already ceded a lot of ground to Deebo Samuel as the wide receiver one in that offense. Although I do like pieces of the Commanders' offense. This is tough because I just don't want to trade for injured players either. Gibbs, can smash. So fun. Jamar Chase, good piece. It's tough. I'm conflicted. I think obviously getting 3 pieces for Gibbs, it comes down to what your team need is. Because are you actually going to start McLaurin and Bucky and Jamar Chase? If you're starting all 3 of those guys, given health, then maybe it's worth it. But if 2 of those guys are on your bench or one of those guys are on your bench, I don't know. It's tough. It's a complicated one. I guess it might be worth it, but I really don't want to give up Gibbs. Dylan, how we doing, says, do I start Garrett Wilson or T-Mac against the Cowboys and Caleb or Justin Fields? Give me, I'm leaning, give me Caleb in a shootout against Washington on Monday Night Football versus Fields against Denver. And then Garrett Wilson's in a nice spot with kind of his recent production, but Denver's tough. Like I just said, it's tough. T-Mac versus Dallas could be the smash spot he needs. I'm a slight lean to T-Mac, but I kind of want to start both of them. You just can't flex Garrett Wilson and T-Mac. You can't have them both. But yeah, I think slightly into Caleb. Caleb and T-Mac for me. Yeah, that's what I was kind of leaning towards, but I'd want to try to flex Garrett Wilson if you can. Jake, yo, what's up, brother? I got Bill, Henderson, and Harvey. When do I give on Henderson? I know it's tough. Got 10 points, and I started Hendy. I'm 1-4. I think I'll be okay if I survive. I got Egbuka, Rice, Wilson, and Lamb at wide receiver. Yeah, your wide receivers are stacked. You just need, of course, Lamb and Rice to come back. You'll be good. If you need someone to start immediately, I could see, souring on Henderson or Harvey, but I'd want to hold them. Bill just got so much more valuable. You want to keep holding because I think we've already seen Harvey have a slight breakout, but there's more to come. And then Henderson, same thing. We haven't really seen it yet, but we could see it soon. Appreciate you being here. Thanks for being here, you guys. Make sure you're subbed to the channel. Make sure you slap that like button. Vote in the poll. I'm going to close the poll now. And then tomorrow night, I'm going to go live with did I already close the poll? I don't know where the poll is. Tomorrow night, I'm going live with Who Hames and Hartman on Who Hames channel. I think we're starting around 9:15 p.m. Central Time, 10:15, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, around then. Come hang with us. We're going to preview Week 6 matchups, the main slate, and draft some Battle Royales on Underdog. So make sure you guys are checking that out. I'll try to post it on YouTube so you know where to go to, but it's going to be on Huhaim's channel, one of my buddies. Appreciate ya. You got Drake London and Igbuka too. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, you can't go wrong. Bill, um, yeah, Bill Krosky Merritt, like smash. Gonna start him every week going forward. Do I drop Keon Coleman for Christian Watson? I personally wouldn't, Frizz. I like Keon Coleman's upside. It's been hit or miss, but he's had a good game already. I think he had a 20-point game already this season, so I'd rather go with that for now. The Packers have been really underwhelming in their passing game. They're not throwing it a whole lot. Do we like Pittsburgh defense? I'm not putting a waiver on Green Bay or Las Vegas. Pittsburgh against Cleveland could be fine. That's a fine, like, low pickup defense. Do I drop Keon for Kendrick Bourne? I don't think so. I think Ricky's going to come back soon at some point. Kittle's going to come back at some point. Juwan Jennings going to come back at some point. I don't think Kendrick Bourne has the staying power. I think it's kind of chasing a performance that we've already experienced. So I would still keep Keon, I think. But if you need, no, I would still go Keon. I would still go Keon. Ryle says I got a trade counter. He wants Debo, Bill, and Matthew Golden. I'd get Jacobs, DJ Moore, and Olave. Yeah, I'm in for that one because Jacobs is the best player in the trade. DJ Moore, to me, is pretty close to Debo, but Debo's been doing better, but it's pretty close. And then Olave and Bill is pretty close too. So I would do this. I think I would do this. If you think you want Jacobs, if having a running back and two wide receivers, and you're giving up a running back and two wide receivers, I think overall this is an upgrade to get DJ Moore, Jacobs, and Olave, where you can start all three of those guys every single week. Yeah, I think I'd take that. So that's what Titan Style says. Yo, what's up? B-Dub, how we doing? In full PPR flex, super flex, 12-man. I'm looking at Bill, Darnold, and Rachaad White for Bucky, Michael Carter, and Bryce Young. That's a lot going on. So you'd get Bucky, Michael Carter, and Bryce Young. You'd give up JCM, Darnold, and Rachaad White. That's tough. Darnold's been killing it. Bryce Young's kind of weak. Rachaad White's a great fill-in. Bucky's coming back soon. Michael Carter's a nice fill-in. Who knows? He could be the starter for a while. Bill's a good flex. The best player in the trade is still probably Bucky. But then it's probably Sam Darnold in Superflex. And then it's probably Bill. And then it's probably Rachaad White. So I think this could be fair if you want to get Bucky and you're cool with starting Bryce Young. But Darnold, I think, is a whole tier above Bryce Young. Yo, what's up, Jake? What's up, Dylan? What's up, Joe? Jake says, I got White and Bucky as RB1. Is Bucky coming back? Judkins also. Don't ask on my QB. Okay. Bucky, he's not coming back this week. They said he's day to day, but I read that as week to week. So maybe next week, but not this week. Dylan says ETN or Garrett Wilson. If you had to start one this week, I would probably start Garrett Wilson against Denver over starting ETN against Seattle. They're both pretty bad matchups. Joe, the pro, says just traded JSN and DeAndre Swift for Jamar Chase and Bucky Irving. Oh, hell yeah. I think it was a good trade, but what do you think? I'm in because the rest of season, JSN and Jamar Chase, same tier, pretty even. But DeAndre Swift versus Bucky Irving. Yes, Bucky Irving's hurt, but we're hoping he comes back. And then Bucky Irving is way better than DeAndre Swift. The thing is, though, DeAndre Swift has already had his bye. Bucky Irving still has his bye in week 9. Bucky Irving's going to miss at least this week and maybe next week. So if Bucky Irving is missing 3 games going forward and Swift isn't missing any, you might just get more utility out of Swift, but is that even worth it? Is he even worth starting? He's not really worth starting right now. He's kind of very replaceable low in flex. The thing I'll say is, though, they don't really have anyone on the Bears they can replace him with. So he's getting a nice amount of touches. Swift, I think he's getting 17 touches per game. I could scroll down and look. 17 touches per game. If that just continues and the Bears are a good offense, Caleb Williams is scoring and the offensive line's good, their defense is fine, he's going to luck into some touchdowns. And so if you're looking at total scoring, could DeAndre Swift outscore Bucky Irving the rest of the season? Yes, because like he's going to play 3 more games. But on a per game basis, I'd still prefer Bucky Irving. So I think it's fine. I think I take the Debo side there. I'm 1-4 though. Appreciate the help. Headed out. Hey, thanks for being here. I'm about to head out too. Come chill with me and Hartman on Whohame's channel tomorrow night. We'll do more of this. We'll do previewing the main slate for week 6 and drafting some battle royales on Underdog. And I think we'll have to check in. Obviously, we Hartman and Whohames and I drafted a dog bowl qualifier last week and we did not win, but we'll have to check in. Maybe we'll draft another one of those this week. B-Dub says my other 2 QBs are Kyler and Fields. I like Fields. I think I like Darnold over Kyler going forward, but Kyler in the similar tier and should be fine, but kind of underwhelming. Yo, thanks. Have a good night, everyone. Appreciate y'all being here. If you're new to the channel, thanks for checking it out. Make sure you hit the like. Make sure you're subbed. If you want to leave any comments afterwards, any waiver or sit start or rest of season outlook or trade questions, I will answer anything you put in the comments here behind this video. Got a whole bunch of other live streams on my channel. Been live streaming all summer long. Hundreds of best ball drafts. We did Dynasty Startup. We did redraft. We did high stakes. And now in season, I'm talking ball every Tuesday night. And then Wednesday nights, we're going live, rotating between my channel, Hartman's, and Whohames. Tomorrow, we're going to be on Whohames' channel. And then I generally go live either Friday and or Saturday, depending on my schedule, what I'm up to, if I'm free. I'm busy this Saturday, but I will be going live, I think, this Friday. And then we have the games on Thursday, so I generally don't go live on nights when there's NFL games. So Mondays, Thursdays, Sundays. And yeah, thanks for being here. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Garage. Follow me on Twitter at FFB Garage if you're on Twitter. And I'll catch y'all in another live stream real soon. Peace out, everyone.